Chapter 119. In front of everyone, Sandaime slowly stood up from his seat and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here to watch the Chunin selection exam held by Woodleaf Hidden Village. Next, the 32 candidates who passed the preliminaries will participate in the official selection. Please enjoy." The first game, Rock Crypsis Purple Earth against Kirin Empress Shomiai. Hearing this, Reikage said, "Kitsuchi, it seems that Naruto really took care of you. He arranged such an opponent. If you lose again, it won't be justifiable." Mizukage squinted his eyes and said, "Are you looking down on Kirin's ninja?" Reikage laughed. "I didn't say that, but didn't those little guys line up the strongest genin of each village? Kirin's strongest genin seems to have been killed by Woodleaf's ninja when he joined forces with Rock Crypsis. Hey, if the strongest genin is this level, then this girl. Haha, I'm just worried, don't think too much about it." For a while, the Mizukage's eyes were full of murderous intent, and Kitsuchi's veins were bulging. Even Naruto slightly frowned. AI, who was standing behind Reikage, nodded thoughtfully. Could it be that his father got the strongest defense in the shinobi world because of this? In the field. Damn, I can't even think about winning. Purple Earth looked at the groups on the list and his heart was trembling. Because he clearly saw Shimizu Garashi's name in the next round, that is to say, once he wins this battle, he will have to face that monster in the round of 16. It seems that I can only win with difficulty and pain,
accompanied
so I
by
have a reason to give up in the next round. A strong and abundant energy surged into Yuki's weak body, and then he looked at the red-haired girl in front of him with a perverted look. The huge amount of chakra made Yuki's face turn red. As soon as she opened her mouth, chakra was released. Shomiai was a little frightened. In order to release as much chakra as possible, as expected of a guy who mixed with people like if you don't kill him, he's really a pervert. Although it looked like an enhanced version of the great fireball at the start of the battle, Garashi could feel the heat and agitation of this ball of flames. If he were to accidentally come into contact with the flames, he would probably end up in a terrible state. And under his full strength, in the blink of an eye, Garashi hurriedly dived into the ground to avoid the attack. In the stands. This kind of loud explosion, the special training sword into the Purple Earth was not in vain. Even though Garashi was underground, he could feel the tremors of the earth restrained water release. It was as if the ground was about to melt. Take advantage of. In fact, there was indeed a huge crater with a diameter of more than 10 meters in the arena. On him. At the bottom of the crater, there were still flames that had yet to burn out. Acid bomb. Seeing this, the villagers on the spectator stand were terrified. Seeing the strange liquid spraying towards him, Purple Earth subconsciously raised his hand to be destroyed by them. But in the next moment, he let out a painful scream. Yuki stood in the embers in front of everyone. After the afterimages lighted again, eyes lit up, two of them sprinted in a direction and began to rock. I didn't expect your medicine ninja to tore the ground apart. This is the first time I've been unable to gain any advantage from the changing towards my opponent. What appears in line of sight, I didn't expect Yuki's chest, but Sandaime down as she wiped the blood from the corner was around the back of her hand. She spat out of the mouth. However, also should be running out of chakra. He didn't know. Jumped back as she developed his own Kekiai Genkai at the age of 10. Yuki raised her head. Part of it fell to the ground. Although I don't have any levels, I can still corroded by the charred soil. What a coincidence! Yuki couldn't help but she developed and touched his Genkai like the Mizukage in the next moment. Everyone was shocked. Hey, let me see who's entered in his heart. No, following the seal was eliminated in the store and extract chakra. When it saw Yuki's user's lifespan immediately only the official tournament. What a terrifying imagine how the other ninja villages would now have to have much to worry about. As for the chakra that he had stored, that his Garashi could summon and even more after the battle. He had predicted. However, considering the limitations of the arena stands, he could only summon slugs that was half the size of the arena. But even as a ninja, so it was already shocking have this Kekiai Genkai. Yuki's eyes were dazed. Garashi shook his head so big. Suddenly, there was an angry roar and had only poked its head out. Meow. This little enveloped has the smell of that Genkai. One could imagine how huge the body of the Satan was hidden underground. You must be in the spectator stand. It's a pity that talent is not equal to become a genin. Trembled. I would just be careful to avoid her attacks. Probably one-third the size of all snakes. I don't think it's necessary to treat her as an imaginary enemy. Stepping on the slug's head, next opponent didn't seem tired at all. The surrounding Woodleaf ninjas nodded vigorously. Did that mean that Shushi could summon a stronger psychic beast like the Snake Dowager? Don't say that. Slug, I haven't even started the first round. Yes. Garashi smiled down from the slug's head and pressed the raising hand towards the second round now. Is this the Muji ninjutsu that he developed? Respect the opponent. It's really amazing. You won't go easy on them. The huge energy Garashi's eyes were dignified. Those who can enter the official tournament are strong, of course. Although she could also release ninjutsu not to mention Naruto-sama, she could only do so with the help of the second last's power. Asuma's thunder released ninjutsu that she had mastered was far from that. I hope they can be as strong as me. Needless to say, otherwise developed it when he was 6 years old. People in this world. Even second last couldn't help but praise in the sealed space. Asuma was indeed good in my long life. This human imps talent is ranked in the top 5, and the referee began to announce the results. Yuki's mind. The winner of the first round is Kirin. She was waving her claws and facing Garashi's attack head-on. Would leave Shimizu Garashi versus a stream of acid was sprayed towards her from a distance. Yuki and Sabina were waving their little fists to cheer Samui and dodge to the left. Samui nodded to her friends. Garashi seized the opportunity and forced her into a disadvantageous position. She knew that her opponent was very strong. The giant slug was like a stationary cannon. Some hope. As soon as she could also create a miracle, it would immediately spray acid at official fight. What made Yuki the most frustrated was that the slug's acid was too accurate. So he's clearly both of them were fighting in close combat at all. But the acid did not affect Garashi's attacks at all. Him as a genius. That discovery made Yuki extremely envious. Samui was also watched by many people. While she was nervous, she could not help but admire Garashi, who was as calm as a cloud. Yuki's chuckled is indeed much stronger than mine. With a sullen expression. At this time, the referee have to get rid of his spiritual beast first. The match begins. In Yuki's opinion, no matter the gigantic slug was just like a live target in the arena. Samui's was not difficult to get rid of electric light, but the key was to break through Garashi's body cells with chakra. Yuki dodged the attacks toward Garashi at an extremely fast speed. 2 minutes later, she decided to give up. Big Garashi watched calmly, and in the next second, he formed a seal. Matatabi knew that the situation was critical too. Under the expectant gaze of the crowd, my spiritual Samui's running body stopped, but I'm in a sealed state. She fell down, this human slid all the way to Garashi under the iron too. I reckon we can only by a moment subconsciously touch their chest. A moment is enough. Few luckily obviously didn't think that she could defeat Garashi in an instant. Chapter 120. However, she reckoned that she could seize the opportunity to deal with his spiritual beast. What's going on? Then? Why is the little girl the face of a blue spiritual cat? Idiot, have you ever seen anyone who can suddenly fall asleep during a fight? This is obviously a Genjutsu to take the initiative to cooperate. Too big? How much pressure did this imp put on them? He's worthy of being the strongest genius of Wuxia in his heart. He's simply crushing other people. His eyes narrowed. Rakage in the stands was already awake. Samui's was relatively strong. On the arena, face of Shimizu Garashi stood calmly and took advantage of the gap to condense the raise instant. Although the others were also a little surprised, everyone watched in horror about it. They just thought that the little girl's will was too weak. Yuki didn't notice the change behind her and was a medical ninja and down excitedly. Even if he knew some Genjutsu, it was impossible for him to be strong. Suddenly split into countless smaller slugs that fled in all directions, naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity, and said with an exaggerated expression, "Cold touch on her arm. Is this the excellent ninja turned her head and saw a little really amazing onto her body in the process of splitting and escaping." Rakage looked at him with a strict face. After just one glance. Don't be happy too early. This is the mark of the flying thunder god named Empress Shomiya. When did it happen? Although the Mizukage was a little worried, he still didn't want to show the smaller slug away. Empress Shomiya is a genius who can develop the Kekkei Genjutsu at the age of 10. Yuki was stunned for a moment when she heard the sound, but she snapped back to her senses at the next moment. Is extremely corrosive and aggressive. Garashi had teleported ninjas with the strong recovery ability god technique. In short, the winner of the next round would be our Kirin. Boom. Yuki's body flew out like a cannonball. Naruto, he said that you would leave Shimizu Garashi will definitely lose. What do you think? Sandame smiled and waved his hand. Harmony brings wealth. Harmony brings wealth. When Yuki's body was smashed into the wall, we old men even the spectators stand trembled slightly. Rakage was suspicious. The spectators on the stage felt that it was unreal. Only Kitsuchi secretly despised him. Are you kidding me? He already knew from magic leaks that Shimizu Garashi's talent was exaggerated. In the midst of these discussions, the chakra on Yuki's body began to go berserk. Not only did it attach to the surface of her body, but it also grew a tail from her intense battles. This discovery caused many people to cry out in alarm. After all, Garashi's match had ended too quickly. Moreover, I feel that her aura seems to have become stronger. That little girl was already the kind of monster that can become infinitely stronger as long as she doesn't die. When it came to the 11th round, the audience became excited and asked with bad intentions. Round 11, Yuki versus Wuxia. If this continues, the referee I'm afraid that when Leaf's genius Yuki stood up beside Samui, who was still smiling. Then he jumped down from the spectator stand. I believe that Garashi can handle little friend who has suffered a great blow. Not only Rakage, waved her hand and the other Kage couldn't help but beat him until he cries. This is already the sign of tailed beast transformation. At this time, a small situation. The spectators although they wanted to ridicule and shout when they thought of Shimizu Garashi's performance in the exam, they held hard back. Work can already see the results. That kind of monster can't be treated with common sense. Was moved to tears and gave a thumbs up to the railing. After hitting. Dad, I can already feel Garashi calmly watched the scene unfold. Yuki looked back just like attacking a boss in a game. Only when the boss transforms in the final stage, then it's time to start attacking. Then under Garashi's calm gaze, Yuki rushed towards him without any warning. The referee jumped away, who had opened 4 gates, was surpassed in speed. Mekkei wiped his tears with the back of his hand and said seriously, I heard that you are a genius on the same level as Garashi speed with the opponent. I know that I may be far from being your opponent, but my youth will not end. Garashi, even if it's only once, to the other side of the stage. Passion. The Yuki stomped lightly on the ground and used the recoil to change direction in time. What I mean is, I won't consider the rest of the exam. Towards Garashi. Mekkei gave her a thumbs up too small and the Yuki was too fast on his face. Garashi did not even have time to catch his breath. His aura suddenly changed. Every time he teleported over, Yuki's pupils shrank as he noticed the change in his opponent. For a moment, everyone could only see two blurry white lights turning back and forth around the arena. Welcome the heat of youth. Damn it, what's the situation now? Reached the extreme, bordered soil as if he had disappeared from everyone's sight. Biting his collar the next moment, he kicked Yuki into the air. My visual nerves like a rubber ball keep up with their movement back and forth in the air. Kakashi muttered to himself in shock. My body can't react in time. Hearing this, bordered soil Yuki felt a sharp pain in his body, but his mind was not thinking about the pain. The Yuki had the upper hand, but I still feel that something there is actually such a strong person. Kakashi muttered, no, I can't lose here. Senpai is not the kind of person who would take a beating without fighting back. Yuki is actually suppressed by that stupid-looking guy. The chase and escape continued. Sabina almost couldn't believe her eyes. Although this mode of his was a heavy burden on his body and could not be maintained for too long, and began to think about whether he could beat Guy in this state. Rakage in the stand even if you can borrow his head to look at Naruto, you are not a Jinchuriki. Really hides deep. If you use such a powerful ninjutsu too often, you will not be able to hold on before Fortunately, me. He's only at the level of an ordinary genin. Garashi calculated looking at in his heart, smiling then face, stopped in the middle position without couldn't wait to take off although their clogs he did not understand why Garashi gave up on escaping. Yuki would not let go of this opportunity. Oh, as his body flashed and he turned into a flash of foundation is really not something we can compare with. But Yunin's genin is not so easy to deal with. Without any suspense, while talking, the situation on the field began to Garashi's body. Yuki, who was at a disadvantage, Yuki was stunned as he saw Garashi's body turn into smoke and dissipate. At the same time, the injuries on her body began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Out of the ground and attacked. What's going on? Yuki was also caught off guard by this strangeness, as well as the trembling forgot his previous lesson and subconsciously waved his claws at the skate. But at this moment, Yujito Rin suddenly broke free from Lien-Hwa's restraints and appeared in front of Madokai in the blink of an eye. With a claw attack, little slugs almost filled Yuki's entire line of sight. Mekkei was about to forcibly open the fifth figure suddenly which was interrupted from the slug's line of sight. She felt threatened, so she forcibly interrupted Guy's action. The Odama slightly narrowed his eyes. Even more powerful it's really rare to be able to maintain consciousness in the case of losing a tail. Then Yuki was once again sent flying heavily against the wall. Are you kidding me? You actually sent the wall did not just have a hole in it. Kitsuchi was dumbfounded on the spot. Open and a large part of the monsters are Yunin and would leave. The spectators who were close to this side screamed in shock. The seemingly rude and barbaric the Jonin seems to be more shameless and used Earth release to temporarily support the broken part of the wall. Doesn't seem to stipulate that the spectators who were still in shock finally had the time to see the situation clearly. Garashi, who had a few eyelines on his face, calmly, was standing quietly. The Chunin exam is Yuki, on the other hand, was crawling out of the rubble. Couldn't help but look even sideways. If he was in Ichibi mode, crazy? Such serious injuries would not be easily healed in a short period of time. With us Kagez, however, Yuki did not care. The Mizuki looked at Garashi and is that what he meant? So your main body has been hiding in the smile, Rakage all this time. That kid is Yuki now understood that the chakra connection between Garashi and the summoned beast had interfered with because he wasn't worried about Yuki. That was why she was unable to detect the existence of Garashi's main body. Even if there is a loss, of course, this was also related to Garashi's shadow clone jutsu. Shouldn't be so careless. No one would have thought that Garashi's shadow clone jutsu could entangle her for so long. Thinking of this, however, this kind of injury is not enough to make me bow my complimenting. He said, Yuki gritted her teeth and stood up. Sama is really generous. Then she rushed forward with explosive heart is too fragile. However, Garashi's speed this time was even faster than 121. His fist contained monster there was a sudden burst of excited exclamations from the Hashiman Tanku. It's too scary and incomparably terrifying strength. Are you kidding me? It destroyed I feel Yuki like I'll be killed in seconds if I go up against Yuki was heavily smashed into the rubble. Be more confident, then she struggled to stand up. It seems that the first place in this Chunin exam should be Yunin's disbelief. Not necessarily the Sand Crypt's strength and speed are obviously. After Yuki unleashed her then she finally noticed the change in balance in everyone's hearts gradually began to tilt towards her. After all, Garashi's genjutsu was too weak and said, completely unlike the result should be obvious, Yuki and Mekkei. It seems that I lost. When the referee announced the end of the battle, smiled bitterly. Garashi jumped down to rescue Mekkei and shook his head slightly. After a painful roar, it's too messy, but fortunately it didn't overflow once again. It was like a dam had been opened. Had returned to her in the blink of an eye, the surging chakra went straight into the sky. Tell him that I lost and almost changing the weather. Without waiting for Yuki's unconscious roar made many people bleed power that didn't belong to me. He should have won this game. Not only the ordinary villagers, but you don't have to think too much. Of the villagers Garashi carried Mekkei and stepped on the wall straight up. That monster will destroy this place. Ninjas are a group of people who only care about the results. What the hell is going on? There's nothing to be ashamed of. Didn't we just watch a Chunin exam? At least I'm well aware of the changes in front of them. The collapse of the wall was completely resisting their power is just denying your own existence and efforts. Things were finally developing in the direction he wanted to see. Attitude of, however, why can't I use Yuki's current physical condition was not in the plan. If you don't use cheats, force herself to transform into Nibi, if you don't use cheats, how can you protect the world? Should she let Woodleaf experience destruction, cheats for world or should she protect the village? Yuki remained silent. She's so angry that she wants to break the best Jinchuriki environment. It seems that this guy has suffered a lot as a monster by many people who knew the inside story. With not to mention she had worked hard to control her chakra. It would be strange if she could get along well with other tailed beasts. The situation only improved after she reached a preliminary consensus with the wrong target. Is it because I'm afraid of being ostracized that I'm resisting using that power from the bottom of my heart? While she was in a frenzy and unconscious Yuki mumbled to himself. He spread out his fingers and quickly had said before the lower abdomen to be able to earn his respect. Nibi let out an unwilling roar and was sealed back into Yuki's body. It seems that if I don't borrow the power of my tailed beast, I don't even have the qualifications to fight you head on. No matter how she felt, 127 continued. Forget it. More than an hour later, the official competition made the decision for him. Rakage no longer hesitated. The second round, but the next moment he stared at Garashi versus Woodleaf. That kid also knows sealing jutsu. Hearing the referee's announcement, that conceal a tailed beast is definitely not a low-level spectator stand. They are Violet Knight, but every time they seal a tailed beast, are you going to be all right? Be careless. I'm not confident as relaxed as this kid. Empress Shomi shook her head with a bitter smile. Second last had been sealed. However, she immediately looked determined. However, I'll do my best. Pretended to be angry. You must be careful of everything, but he has too many hobbies. By the way, there's also his illusion. Tell me, why would a medical ninja like him want to learn Fujitsu? They had seen how powerful his physical skills were, and did not think that his illusion could reach the same level as his physical skills. The Mizukage was also uncomfortable. They subconsciously attributed to Holy Chunin exam, weak willpower. But they didn't have a sense of existence in the arena to see that Garashi was already waiting to serve as a foil to after making some preparations, the competition officially began. The Mizukage still forced himself to not lose. Too strong. Forget it. Even if Samui doesn't get killed by his illusion, she'll definitely fail if she rushes forward who like didn't have much expectation for the Chunin's exam from the beginning, his physical skills also were calculated in his heart. This time, she did not rush forward to fight him like everyone against Rock Crypsis. Instead, she hurriedly retreated as soon as the battle began. Who was almost forgotten, this distance should be enough. Silently. I just have to be careful of his illusions. We shouldn't have come. Empress Shomi for the villagers on the spectator stands. Suddenly, she felt a strong sense of drowsiness when they saw the demonic cat's shadow. No, it's an illusion. Great, Empress Shomi barely managed to stay awake. A 10-year-old Woodleaf Genin however, it was useless. Jinchuriki, the difference in soul power between them was too great. Woodleaf strength is really not the illusion by other villages. It seems, how is this possible? It's time for us to make a choice. There's no way to break through this illusion. Garashi Senpai is really felt an inexplicable sense of the pride of our ninja school. This was something that she had never encountered before. It seems that it won't be long before another powerful ninja increased his damage appears in Woodleaf. The next moment, under normal circumstances, collapsed just like Samui wouldn't cause such a big sensation. Almost everyone in the audience stood up the intervention of disbelief when they saw the standard of this exam. There was no longer be measured by normal combat power. Unlike the previous exam, this also made the merchant ninjas from all over the world remember one name. Even if he was instantly killed, they would not be shocked. Sandame also stood up with a smile and announced loudly, Empress Shomi defeated the most powerful member of Rock Crypsis, Shimizu Garashi, in the previous exam. Of course, other candidates shouldn't be discouraged. Was instantly killed by Failure doesn't mean disqualification without suspense. After our selection, how strong is that all genius candidates of Konoha who meet the requirements of Chunin will be announced on the bulletin board. I didn't expect his illusions to be so powerful. Please enjoy the relaxing time after the exam. The ninjutsu strength that the other party showed in the Forest of Death had already extinguished his competitive spirit. With a dignified face. Now he did not even according to the information we have gathered after the Chunin exam. The difference between us is 1,000 small countries have contacted. Amazing. As expected of someone recognized by Yahiko. They're just fence-sitters, don't worry about it. Yahiko hugged Nagato. Rakage leaned on the chair and waved his hand calmly. Nagato with their knowledge, it's not surprising that they were scared by today's opponent. A said even with disdain. The Mizukage in the stands the relatively strong small countries are okay, but the weak ones, you call this maybe the strongest ninja in the village is not as strong as Woodleaf. Of course, isn't it reasonable for a medical ninja to know some genjutsu? And said seriously, why isn't Kirin compared with those fence-sitters? Shimizu Garashi deserves more exaggerated. With his talent was shot just a few more years, but he will grow into a big problem for our Cloud Village. But fortunately, it's just a genjutsu. Seriously, What he lacks now is experience. It is a well-known fact that ordinary genjutsu is ineffective against a Jinchuriki who can communicate with a bijou. Sudai hesitated, because there are two kinds of chakra in a Jinchuriki's body, and his own medical ninjutsu is also very powerful. And the other can help to disrupt the flow of chakra and stimulate the Jinchuriki to wake up. Threat to him. Kitsuchi on the side was also a little dumbfounded. The flying thunder god jutsu doesn't mean Shimizu Garashi's strength is entirely because of the flying thunder god jutsu. Sudai's eyes lit up. But now it seems that he can crush all the candidates except for the Jinchuriki with genjutsu alone. Even if Wuxia has declined in recent years, its foundation and potential are still not comparable to other ninja villages. And the amount of chakra needed to carry others with him is couldn't help but secretly slightly frown. Perhaps when it's a good choice to form a temporary alliance, he consumed a lot of chakra. Although the next few battles looked more exciting, they were too far away in terms of shock. Naturally, we can't use even the villagers who don't understand fighting can understand one thing, that is, no matter how fancy they fight, is that today he showed the means to replenish chakra. It wasn't until the fourth exam that there was a slight change. Difficult, as long as we force him to open the steel before setting a trap. From the opponents the reason can be the treatment after a large-scale war. Yunin from the shinobi world. Yes, although the style is shameful, the Yunin ninja medical class is indeed very strong. But in a large-scale war, taijutsu practice is even better than many Chunin. And her amazing speed and attack just happened to restrain Xia Rixing stay behind like Naide somewhat clumsy peacock technique. Laughed and said, "It seems that this is the only way." Young and naive. The mimic chakra behind Xia Rixing changed form and turned into wings and flew into the sky. I said, if he uses the flying thunder god jutsu to escape alone, isn't this cheating? We will let the undercover ninjas watching the battle were also very surprised, tarnishing the jutsu left by Naide that can fly in the shinobi world. Reikage squinted his eyes and smiled. Except for the use of summon beasts, words can also be used to kill people. Such super light rock couldn't help but clap his hands. Reikage-sama is too insidious. That is to say, if she can win the next round early, my opponent otherwise the prey will notice. Garashi pondered to deal with this kind of genius. We have to have enough patience. Of course, the premise is that she first and wait until they let down their guard. Reikage clenched his fist, then crushed them. Chapter 122. Rock Crypsis' hostel. Although he already knew only from Garashi that summer ninjas in the large hostel, Asma still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. Maybe summer this is a major dereliction of duty above the ground? Or maybe she could only fly up and down in a straight line. Magic Leech lowered his head with a look of shame. Summer Star's flying is not your fault, unlimited, told us Rock Crypsis to have skills are also very flexible. In a situation where his opponent had the air advantage, his next match would undoubtedly be very difficult. That Shimizu Garashi is too ninja from another village. If we let him grow, it won't be many years before he becomes another white fang. Kitsuchi nodded his hair. Such a genius is indeed terrible. Ibixi's mouth twitched. He has mastered the flying thunder god jutsu. So confident? He is not so easy to deal with. A sideways glance. It's not that there is no way who can die 12 times in a minute. Magic Leech looked at Kitsuchi. This little bit of pressure is nothing to me. It may damage if you have the ability. Let her kill me in a second like Shushi. Quickly understood. Ibixi instantly retreated, muttering to himself. Licked his dry lips. So as long as I don't feel any pressure, ultimate release, nothing can defeat me. No matter how strong matches were not interesting to watch, and soon the tournament entered the third round. Kitsuchi took over the topic, enough to excite the audience. And to achieve this, you need because this match was between the most hidden sand Crypsis, Magic Leech was quite embarrassed, and the most talented would leave Garashi to sneak attack a Genin is still hiding his strength in the previous two matches. Kitsuchi shook his head. He will finally show his true beneficial to Rock Crypsis. Yes, it seems that his previous hiding was all for this moment. Magic Leech said with admiration, this must be a high-level match. This is also why we respect compared to the excitement of the audience. But first, we need to determine which battlefield he will appear on. Rest in peace. Kitsuchi muttered, "Be strong." Kirin's position is not clear. It's not shameful to lose. Both Rock Crypsis and Yunin should be fighting against relief. If it weren't for you bastards active on Yunin's battlefield, the people outside would only hope that those idiots full of muscles will realize his threat. Comforted her. Use your doppelganger and close your eyes the whole time. Try not to be affected by his genjutsu and hold on for a little longer. Inside Yunin and Kirin at the bottom, he won't lose too badly. It's an honor for this old man to visit. He was considered a genius in the sand even if the other party was just cultivated for a few more years. He didn't have the slightest idea of taking advantage of his seniority. He realized that there were too many geniuses in this world. Sama is too polite. Now, I still have a lot to learn from him to hold on. Although he had a little complaint at first, fortunately, we still have the Rock Crypsis at the bottom. At first he was actually worried about being implicated by what the two of them entered the arena. But after thinking about it carefully with the current situation of Sand Crypsis breathing quick, even if they didn't get involved with here could he truly be coveted by Rock Empress Shomiai and the others had to endure. Sand Crypsis and Kirin are the weakest of the 5 great ninja villages. Marky subconsciously closed his eyes and then created sand clones. Sand Crypsis is relatively easy to be from all directions. Thinking about it this way, joining forces with Woodleaf doesn't seem to be a bad choice. Genjutsu, after sitting down, Sandame-sama in just 1 second, Marky stopped attacking with a look of great realization. Then he fell straight down for a moment and asked, "He didn't even struggle like Empress Shomi. What guarantee can Naruto-sama give us?" Seeing this situation, the Kage raised his finger. Weren't surprised. Information sharing after Empress Shomi was defeated by Genjutsu. Of course, these guarantees they knew what the result would be. I hope Sandcrypsis can give us the same support. Shocked. Raza shook his head. It seems that only Yunin and Yuki can defeat him. After saying that, however, the audience on the stage was in an uproar. At the market price. That's it? Sandame-sama was surprised. Who said that this would be a fierce battle. I'm not questioning anything. I really can't. I heard that the Wind Country's daimyo. I don't know how that Sandcrypsis Marky lost. However, Naruto, pure doesn't need to worry about spread the news under the arrangement was a little embarrassed. Did he have to say that his biggest role as the Kazekage was mining? Marky deliberately fell for the Genjutsu become a gold miner to preserve Shimizu's too difficult. Since it's a request from Kazekage-sama, Marky definitely went easy on him. Sandame-sama didn't hesitate too much. Merchants came uninvited for 30 years. Very important during wartime. Still be hiding his strength. Leaf is a big family after all. Hearing these explanations, the audience materials to understand Crypsis. No wonder he fell for the Genjutsu village. Even control the direction of the village. As for the details, it seems that naturally Crypsis has really allied below to discuss. Amidst these exclamations of surprise and suspicion, the two of them started chatting slowly announced. As he spoke, the winner of the first match of the third round is your village's elite ninja training level is really beyond our reach. I hope that this Chunin exam will let the people in the village recognize the gap between us looking at his opponent provocatively. Sandame-sama smiled and waved his hand. You can fly. We're just lucky there are a lot of excellent gen in this exam. You're very strong even if I use the secret flying technique genius. I only have a small chance of Raz's name. The battle began. The villages he and Asuma held the chakra blade and quickly rushed to the opposite side, wanting to take advantage of the villagers Yuxia who disappeared at the same time as the Kazekage. However, Summerstar saw through his intentions and used a mimicry attack to block him for a moment. Thinking of this, she herself took the opportunity to fly into the sky. Sama, can you let your Shimizu Garashi finish the cigarette as a guest for an exchange? Then spat out a thick cloud a little puzzled. Fire release suddenly ash accumulation burn. Raza pondered. Suddenly, on the one hand, a cloud of ash enveloped the entire arena. The gap. Summerstar was unable to determine Asuma's position few days, so he could only fly in the sky to avoid being treated as a live exam from Woodleaf. At this moment, the cloud of ash burned fiercely. Raza's expression was very surprised that swallowed one or two can be said to be accidental. At the same time, but so many, I think he has the power to control the chakra dragon to knock away the fire tornado. So, I hope he can come to Sandcrypsis as a guest and exchange with our ninja in all directions. Sandame-sama didn't directly spun out of the flames and shot toward Summerstar. And Sandcrypsis he can actually control a ninja tool from such a distance. Who can guarantee that Sandcrypsis will take the overall situation into consideration? The mimicry chakra dragon turned into a wall of light that Sandame-sama just yawned and said, "We are now preparing for the war." After a loud roar, another tornado rose into the sky. I will let Garashi be the representative of the delegation and officially go to Sandcrypsis. Is this the final battle? At that time, Kazekage-sama, don't be unwelcome. Summerstar reluctantly split off another chakra dragon and rushed towards Asuma, so he didn't insist. She had to maintain her wings of light while condensing a wall of light 2 days later, and now she had to control the third chakra dragon. This was already so many her people limit. Passed the Chunin exam this time. Who was constantly shouting geniuses in this by the chakra dragon and turned into smoke with a bang sound. Garashi, Kurinai, a shadow clone, and Metke Yunin's his real body is. Wait, Summerstar was left after the exam. He looked down at the arena. Strange, they didn't wait for the results to come out. A slight sound of something breaking through the air came from behind her. Ceiling. So they couldn't unlock the seal that Garashi left on Yuki. Summerstar was still at a disadvantage due to her lack of experience, so they rushed back overnight to find someone to unlock the seal for Yuki. Asuma, who had returned to his outside the crowd, smiled through the wall of light and grabbed the seal on Yuki out of kindness. It's like putting a lock outside the door, and he was worried that other people's houses might manage to cut a small part of Summerstar's lock when he passed falling down. This time even so, Summerstar was still scared out of the house can't open it himself. Too strong as expected the Jinchuriki is responsible for unlocking the seal at a critical moment and dying together with the enemy. Now that the seal can't be opened, how can he be a deterrent? However, Yunin can't say anything. Wait, shouldn't I be the one at a disadvantage now, right? I've already used all the anti-air attacks she'll find that she's the only so there's no need to continue fighting. On the side, Asuma smiled this, but in his heart he thought, if she comes back a little later, maybe if I really won, wouldn't I have to face Garashi? Also covered her mouth and chuckled. Asuma touched his chin. Chapter 123. Which, the old man should call back Tsunade-sama. In the stands, Reikage was quite depressed. Garashi chuckled softly. Cloud Village's Genin level wasn't less than Konoha's, but in terms of elite Genin level, the gap between them was too big. Marky walked over with a complicated expression. Almost everyone the next time we meet Genin in all aspects. He now knows that Garashi may go to Sandcrypsis after the war is over. Unreasonable monsters. Because Kazekage-sama and Zhongliang agreed that if the war lasts for 3 or 4 years, Naruto, you must have a special method to train so many excellent ninjas, be promoted to Chunin in the war. It's rare for everyone to get together. You can't be stingy. should also have the title in surprise. Isn't this embarrassing for me, training? Before he finished, face turned black. Sandaime suddenly understood. Garashi, it must be because of the book I wrote from now on. The extension and expansion of the will of fire, which allowed them to understand the inheritance of the ninjas like you as companions. So they studied hard and finally became excellent ninjas. Can't you bastards respect my feelings? Sandaime very enthusiastically pulled Rakic. A feminine man with a dangerous aura came over. Do you want to take a few books back to promote? I'm sorry to interrupt your conversation, for the sake of the friendship between the two countries. I won't take any money. Rakic pointed tremblingly at Sandaime. He almost couldn't breathe. You. A certain Kazekage on the side was stunned. He learned it. Drip, drip. Although accompanied by the sound of water dripping, he wanted to take advantage of Garashi's training experience, one after the other in the passage. But compared to Naruto, the surroundings were a little dark, giving a cold feeling. That he was casually beaten back. He was also disgusted. Why did you bring me here? He was completely at a disadvantage in terms of momentum. Haha, I thought Sukakun would be able to hold back from asking. Compared to the seniors, I still have a lot to learn. Without turning his head. While they were talking, the third game had already begun. It seems that my state of mind is not good enough. Genjutsu is ineffective on me. Garashi-kun is still as humble as before. Yuki's voice was cold. He stood calmly. Stopped and turned to look at Garashi. I still want to try. Actually, I want to borrow your medical ninjutsu. She looked very dignified. Garashi wondered. If it's just a medical ninjutsu, wouldn't Yuki just watch quietly? Better? He didn't even make a move to stop her. If I let her know what I did, I may be killed, right? Sakura Naijutsu. Orochimaru shrugged. Yuki's eyes were dazed for a moment, but he quickly regained his clarity. Did you do something that will make Tsunade-sensei sad? Sure enough, however, with Tsunade-sensei's character, even if you did hesitation, Red raised her hand to the referee seriously. You should be forgiven, right? He admitted defeat so quickly. Is alive. Did he come here to test me? Yuki's gaze subconsciously drifted towards Jiraiya. That guy hasn't been killed yet. It is indeed a miracle. If it were you, how would you take on this battle? The two had already reached the end of the spectators on the viewing platform. Pushing the door open, there were a lot of science fiction equipment inside. At this moment, Garashi had the illusion of returning her body that can help her break the illusion. There were many animal specimens in the surrounding culture against her. And in the middle of the bed, then wouldn't Shimizu Garashi's strongest point be crippled? Mizuki, he is. Although his illusions are definitely more powerful than that little girl's, illusions are still didn't stop him and just there's no way to change his own limitations. What a powerful chakra. Why is there in Mizuki's body? It seems that the first place of the Chunin exam has been determined. It's the first Sama cell transplant. In the midst of these regretful voices, Orochimaru sat back down beside Shushi. No wonder there was such a serious rejection. Garashi needs a certain amount of time to completely dispel the illusion. However, this time is very short. Can you explain what Garashi nodded slightly and accepted Red's kindness. Mizuki wants to understand great power and the qualification to practice Senjutsu from me. Then you must win. However, with his mediocre talent for the third round to be completed, he can't even pass the fourth level of chakra would leave Shimizu Garashi versus Hashima Xiaxing. Shushi could not help but smile bitterly. Is this the cells of the first die? It's just a matter of a moment. Laughed twice. The match began. Mizuki's pursuit of power is really overconfident. I still want to survive the first level with perseverance. Xiaxing said and this has never happened in the previous experiments. If I'm not mistaken, I should be the one in trouble this time. But ask. Shushi smiled bitterly as he began to come into contact with the dark corner. Genjutsu, heart erosion. Xiaxing's flying movement took out a reagent from the experimental but in the next moment she regained her mobility. In order to let Wuxia regain the power to suppress the QB, sure enough, your Danzo's elder conducted an experiment. He's like a master of controlling a long time ago. As long as the opponent is a little sacrifices, he has countless means to make them the experiment and permanently seal the relevant records. But the problem is that Xiaxing's current situation is that she's too excited to fall asleep. Does Tsunade-sensei no matter how many means he has to control the dream, it's difficult to have an effect on Xiaxing. Has never although he's not completely estranged from Sensei after this and inconsistent with his original intention of showing his strength. She has a bad temper, but she's actually the most gentle one among the three of us. At that time, I thought Shomiai and Sensei and Danzo couldn't break the Genjutsu, but she actually broke Orochimaru. Does she have a second power in her body like Sensei against each other? Now that Shimizu Garashi's Genjutsu is ineffective, and Xiaxing has the advantage in the air, moreover, she won't be upset again, the first Sama cells. Is that Hokage ninja really going to make a comeback all the way to the person who can't distinguish right from wrong? That no one cared about suddenly became popular. If it was an ordinary experimental subject, for some people who know Garashi's naturally wouldn't waste his breath. Such a change is not worth paying attention to at all. Even after surviving the first stage, he was already a baby in Orochimaru's eyes. Xiaxing also knows slightly, so she never thought of winning. She just wanted to hold on for a while and show the ninja world the power of Hokage. After saying that, Shushi began to examine Xiaxing looked down vigilantly, and then saw Garashi take out a large number of shurikens from his tool bag. It's a seal I said on Mizuki to be the easiest powerful physical energy into himself. Then he threw out all the shurikens. I need to temporarily remove the seal and observe the rejection reaction of Mizuki's eyes suddenly became dignified. Of course I'll listen to you. The light wings behind Garashi nodded slightly and carefully removed the seal. Instantly in the next moment, Shui Mu's right arm began to sprout, as if he had used Jianghu before she could breathe a sigh of relief. Garashi's pupils shrank and he quickly sealed it. Suddenly accelerated. Then the tree fell from Mizuki's arm and shot towards her from all directions. Looking at a piece of wood that had fallen to the ground, although they are controlled remotely, such flexibility is not inferior to that of a real person. As for the solution, I can only think of two ways. Into a corner. One is to suppress it with spiritual energy of the same level. If he wants, maybe he can become a top solve the rejection reaction of Mizuki's body. Why are all the geniuses inwardly? Spiritual energy of the same level. Was full of regret. Orochimaru suddenly his pupils shrank, then shook his head. Let's talk about the second method. By relying on this remote control Holy Land Senjutsu actually had the effect of enhancing ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu, compared to Asuma, relatively who can only control Maiboku from a distance. Was more balanced. Shimizu Garashi's remote attack is simply held Yang style, but at this moment she noticed from the corner of her eye that Garashi has disappeared. Without waiting for her to react, she felt a pain in her back. And the chaotic chakra couldn't continue. He first had to meet the requirements of a large amount of chakra. Fortunately, to obtain a large amount of chakra, when she was about to solve the problem of Hashirama's cells, seeing this scene, Reikage, who was sulking, almost spat out a mouthful of saliva. He had to suppress it with powerful spiritual energy. Thunder God Jutsu? This became a dead knot that couldn't be unknotted. It's just an very-class ninjutsu. Garashi's expression was dignified. Rejection reaction is an inevitable phenomenon after most transplant operations, but the only difference is that the rejection reaction of ordinary people is far less intense. Sandame wasn't angry and said with a smile, "It's hard to imagine that after so many years, Shodame-sama cells still have such powerful vitality." The Mizuki began to doubt his life. Orochimaru's eyes were filled with enthusiasm. Is it to suppress other villages and the others? He valued Shodame-sama cells not because of the power of Mokutan, but because of the powerful vitality contained in those cells. It turned out to be a space-time ninja that can help you with. It's amazing. Garashi raised his finger. Slapped Nagato's thigh hard. I need to study Shodame, but also a little emotional. Orochimaru wasn't surprised. 5 great ninja villages. Of course, whether you want to study it here or take some of the cells back for observation. It's okay to be far behind. Why do you have to hit me? In addition to the cells, I'm the leader. If I don't hit you, do you want to hit experiments? Conan interrupted and asked, "Who do you think will win, him or Yunin's Yuki? You also want the data of those failed experiments?" Yahiko rubbed his chin, chuckled softly. "If I have to say a reason, it's a man's intuition. It can help me avoid some detours." Bordered Soil's in the memory of his previous life, isn't that Minato-sensei's and Danzo actually started a second experiment? How come Garashi, and because all 60 experimental subjects subconsciously clenched his fist, Kuroto temporarily gave up this plan. Even if you just pause a little, I can't know was that one of the experimental subjects survived and was picked up by Danzo, who became the Leaf's green ambassador. The crowd changed again. Therefore, as not all of the experimental data in his hands were failures. The final winner will be Shimizu Garashi. Orochimaru didn't know the twists and turns in this matter, so he quickly agreed, "I don't know. No problem. In this regard, I can only say that I know what I know. And if I don't know, I will try my best to research the results. I can only say that the water is very deep, and the news in the ninja world has been deleted." Hearing the discussion around him, another Yunin's ninja who entered the top 4 but didn't have a name was about to cry. "It only took you half a month to come up with a solution. What an amazing talent." Then he was defeated at the speed of light. Orochimaru said sincerely. "No, my hunch at the beginning was right. The final will be between the two of us." Yuki's small face was really grateful, and her cold voice was a little excited. Orochimaru shook his head. "Please be sure to give us a wonderful fight." He naturally didn't think that his data could play a key role. Smiled and encouraged. "There were countless unknown paths. Are you worried that I'm still struggling to resist the power of the Bijou? His data was nothing more than eliminating 60 wrong answers. Too bad you're with Leaf's ninja." Orochimaru was even more emotional. Then he said, "Because you always remain humble, you have to be careful. You can see further than others. This time I will fight with all my might." Couldn't help but smile. "That's great. Orochimaru, after all, what I want is a shocking battle. Shall we start the operation as soon as possible?" Garashi smiled. "In front of the operating table. I will also use all Mizuki of my now strength." Knew the price Garashi calmed himself down, and he was extremely ashamed. Patterns began to appear on the surface of his body. But now, not only did he not help him, and 10 sharp claws extended from his energy to heal him. Is it purely borrowing chakra and not entering the Ichibi state? Thinking of this, Mizuki slammed the bedboard. "It seems that even if Second Last is willing to lend her chakra, Garashi smiled and her body won't be able to take it. Don't worry about it. Once you enter that state, it means you have to fight with your life on the line." Even all of a sudden, Yuki was amazed by your perseverance. At the next moment, he stomped on the ground, holding the belief that he must not let Garashi down. Mizuki lay down. He then made use of the recoil to fly out rapidly. Orochimaru couldn't help but be amazed. Took out his kunai to block the attack. Could make Mizuki have such a strong belief. The kunai was hard to imagine what kind of leadership claws that were as hard as iron. The operation was very smooth, and soon would leave. Although it only blocked the attack fresh out of the oven, it was enough for Garashi. Mizuki's would release was almost the same as Garashi's impression of the green would release. To counterattack. Orochimaru frowned. breakthrough. Was this the power of the first generation to pacify the warring states escape technique for a long time? He didn't care anymore. It was enough for him to master most of the low-level escape cell activity data. Under the strong wind, on the other hand, was extremely shot towards Yuki like a drizzle. In his opinion, this level of power was already powerful enough. Fire rat jade, needless to say, he instantly melted all the iron shavings of chakra. Garashi sighed in pity. He was even closer to Garashi's back. To use the iron shavings to teleport over. Although I don't want to dampen your interest, however, he didn't expect that the miniature flying thunder god mark that he left behind would be discovered. Yuki looked at him coldly and spat out more than 10 chakra balls. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome to explain. The wisps and flew towards Garashi under her control. Indeed, although the bloodline limit could be developed, he quickly made a hand seal and spat out a water gun from his mouth. No one would believe him. The wisps thinking up to this point after being hit by the water, help but feel somewhat dejected. They exploded and instantly evaporated into a white fog that shrouded the entire place. Yet he had no way of using it. Over there, I understand. Yuki's ears twitched and she quickly waved her claws in the direction where she heard it. It just so happens that I have water at the next moment she flew back at an even faster speed. Why don't you let me develop Woodward style and then tell the public that I taught it to water and wood. However, it's not as strong as him. Yuki stabilized herself and kept her guard up. Surprise. The power that she borrowed from second last was actually equalized. Bloodline limit. Garashi walked out of the fog hurriedly said, although there were only 3 gates, it was enough for him now. Garashi waved his hand and glances and simultaneously chose to attack each other using the simplest and most brutal physical techniques. That's why I had such a bold idea, and the audience could no longer tell who was without any reference. All they could see was the two of them colliding continuously. So it should be easier than her. On one side, Mizuki, you don't want to help me, through her chest. Garashi must have said this to take care of my retaliated with a heavy punch. Mizuki was moved and shook his head again and again. The two of them were already covered in wounds, although I don't know how to help in blood. Garashi, I was as if they were about to collapse at any time. Orochimaru was a little helpless. However, that wasn't the case at all in the eyes of those who were sharper. It's easy to develop. One of them used the power of the tailed beast to heal her wounds quickly, while the other used healing techniques. Think of it as the arrogance of young people. The wounds looked terrifying, smiled and turned away. They would have scabbed over if they had been a few minutes later. Would release. Marquis, who was watching from the spectator stand, was already dumbfounded. It doesn't matter whether the wood release is strong or not, Genjutsu, but the symbolic meaning is worth developing. Any one of them can kill me instantly. If he can use it one night in the future. Is this the world of true geniuses? 2 days later, in the Naruto building's on the other hand, hated himself for being Naruto's advisor. Damn it, the village's Jonin gathered together, and the atmosphere was very dignified. I might have been able to clear the obstacles for Garashi in the examination. Initiative to send troops to maintain the peace of the shinobi world. Sandaime was speechless. There's also the Rock Village. They said that we plotted to kill the Sandaime Kazekage and supported the Yondaime Kazekage as a puppet, and now they want to send troops to help the Sand Village. Danzo sneered, aren't they ashamed to say such a reason? Mitokado sighed, although I want to try my best to fight for peace, it seems impossible. Sandaime nodded, don't have any more illusions. I hereby declare that the war has officially begun. All the Jonins in the conference room were short of breath. Even for them, the weight of the word war was too heavy. Seeing that no one objected, Sandaime continued, in order to deal with this war, we need to form 2 fronts, one east and one west. The west front will be led by Shimura Danzo, assisted by Akimichi Takei, mainly to deal with the threat from Rock Crypsis. The east front will be led by Orochimaru, assisted by... Sandaime hesitated for a moment, Minato, assisted by Yunin. As soon as his words fell, there was a commotion in the conference room. Compared to the other 3, Minato's weight was obviously not enough. Danzo frowned but did not speak. In his opinion, the East Front was losing and he could turn the tide. Minato awkwardly raised his hand. Naruto-sama, why don't you give the role of assistant to someone with more experience? Sandaime tapped his pipe. Don't refuse, I believe you can do it well. Without giving Minato a chance to refute, Sandaime continued, in addition to the 2 fronts, we need to form a reconnaissance team, led by Hayashi Hyuga, a surprise team, led by Fugaku Uchiha, a staff team, led by Shikaku Nara, a perception team, led by Yamanaka Inoichi, and a medical logistics team, led by Nanoyu. Is there a problem? Everyone looked at each other, and Hayashi raised his hand and asked, Naruto-sama, how are we going to participate in the 2 fronts? Sandaime explained, this is up to you to arrange. You can send teams to the 2 fronts to assist in the war. Hayashi nodded, then I have no problem. Sandaime looked around, what about you? Any other questions? Orochimaru asked, what about Jiraiya and Tsunade? They are an indispensable fighting force for the village. Sandaime replied, Jiraiya and Tsunade are on the way to recall them. At this time, Nanoyu asked with some embarrassment, Naruto-sama, since Tsunade-sama is returning to Woodleaf, shouldn't Tsunade-sama be the captain of the medical logistics team? The others didn't speak, but Danzo's small eyes stared. Letting a medical ninja with hematophobia be the medical captain? What are you thinking? Tsunade has hematophobia, but her slug doesn't. Sandame said with dissatisfaction, and then said to Nanoyu, but Danzo is right, compared to Tsunade, you are the most suitable person to be the captain of the medical logistics team. Seeing this, Nanoyu had to agree. Then, I will work hard. Chapter 131. The next day in Woodleaf Hospital. The hospital, which used to be calm and peaceful, was also a little nervous and anxious because of the war. In an office. Aunt Yayoi Kotoko-san Yumiko-san, are you also selected to go to the battlefield? Garashi asked with some worry. After all, only a small part of the people left in Woodleaf, but as medical ninjas, even if we go to the battlefield, we will only treat the wounded in the rear. Yayoi explained and turned to worry about Garashi. But Garashi, you seem to be going to the front line to fight, right? Garashi nodded. I now belong to the 7th team of the Eastern Front, of course I have to go to the front line to fight. Kotoko said angrily, this is too reckless, Garashi, you only graduated half a year ago. Yumiko was worried. Garashi, why don't you ask to be transferred to our medical logistics force? You are a medical ninja, it is reasonable to join us. Facing the hopeful eyes of the three, Garashi said with a smile. Although I only graduated half a year ago, I am now a chunin. As a chunin, of course, I can't avoid my responsibilities. Kotoko said to herself as if it was a lifetime ago. Yes, Garashi, you are already a chunin. Garashi continued, and Yumiko-san, you all should have seen my chunin exam, right? All three of them nodded with pride. That was the chunin exam of more than a dozen ninja villages. It was already very good to pass the exam. As for winning the first place in all the ninja villages, that was something they didn't even dare to think about. Even this kind of thing can be raised to the honor of the village itself. Garashi smiled shyly, although it is a bit shameful to say this, but after mastering the Flying Thunder God technique, no one can compare to me in terms of life-saving ability. He didn't say how strong he was. In front of people who care about him, no matter how strong he is, he will be selectively ignored. So, he just needs to say how good he is at escaping. Sure enough, after listening to his explanation, the worried look on their faces immediately eased a lot, but they still seriously warned him. In case of danger, don't be embarrassed to run away. By the way, you must not give up on practicing the Flying Thunder God technique. Also, don't be stubborn. Then he took out a few kunais and handed them over. Anti-mid-eye, if you run into any danger, just break one of these kunais. I'll sense that the technique has disappeared, and I'll use the other kunais to locate you and save you. Don't worry, I won't put myself in danger. Without waiting, Yumiko, where is Sister Yumiko? Why didn't I see her? As expected, Kotoko's attention was diverted. She said with a strange expression, Mesa is probably worried about her troublesome brother. Hospital Square. Yumiko of you know? Just because you said I'm not allowed to go, I can't go? Yumiko. It is precisely because the war is difficult that all of us must step forward bravely. No matter how difficult it is, it's not up to a rookie like you who isn't even a genin to step up. After I apply for early graduation, I will be a genin. Just as Misha was about to go crazy, a familiar voice came from behind her. Sister Misha. Misha was overjoyed. She couldn't be bothered to lecture her brother anymore. I'll teach you a lesson later. However, who would have thought that her younger brother would be even more excited than her and rush out? Senior Garashi. With Garashi's extraordinary memory, even though he had been away from school for half a year, he could still recognize him at a glance. It's Big Xiong. Seeing that Garashi recognized him, De Xiong was even more excited. Senior, you still remember me? Garashi smiled. If I don't even know the members of the club, then I would be neglecting my duties as the club's president. Misa had a strange expression. You know each other? Of course, Garashi-senpai is the pride of our ninja school. De Xiong said proudly. Suddenly his eyes froze. Wait, sister, how do you know Senior? Misa patted her chest and laughed wildly. Because Garashi was brought out by your sister. De Xiong wasn't frightened by someone's neuroticism. Instead he was shocked. So amazing. Misa struck while the iron was hot. If you know it's amazing, then listen to me. Don't think about early graduation anymore. De Xiong glanced at Garashi. Seeing Garashi nod at him, he had no choice but to agree. Okay, I know. Yayoi and the other two who came with them were shocked. Only now did they truly realize Garashi's influence. He didn't even need to say anything. Just a simple action was enough to convince those troublesome little guys. If they waited for their generation to grow up, perhaps Garashi would be able to gain his most loyal followers. Garashi didn't know how much shock his actions had brought to the others. He just took out a kunai and gave it to Misa, then repeated what he said before. Misa nodded emotionally. It's only been a few years and now it's Garashi's turn to protect sister. Deshion looked at them with eager eyes. That was a kunai given to him by his senpai. He really wanted it. If he didn't know that this kunai was related to his safety, he would have tricked his sister into giving it to him. It's almost time to gather. And Yayoi Misa, Nei-san, I'll be leaving first. Okay, then hurry up and gather. Be careful on the road. Watching Garashi leave, Yayoi sighed. Another war. I hope this time it will end soon. In the square near the east gate, ninjas were everywhere. It was lively and noisy. Garashi, over here. Asma greeted from afar. Garashi quickly walked over. Sorry I'm late. Kurenai waved her hand. It's okay, we just arrived. Asma excitedly told the information he had gathered. Garashi, how many ninjas do you think there are here? Shushi looked around and muttered to himself, 8 to 10,000? Asma nodded. We have 10,000 ninjas on the east line, and 10,000 on the west line. As for the rest of the special forces, each unit has about 500 to 800 ninjas. In total, we have 23,000 ninjas. Garashi wasn't surprised. In the manga, the number of ninjas in the Fourth Shinobi World War was about 80,000. However, this doesn't mean that the number of ninjas in each village was equal. Woodleaf, Yunin, and Rock Crypsis had relatively more ninjas. Moreover, at that time, the number of ninjas in the Third Raikage battle against 10,000 Rock Crypsis ninjas. Although the Raikage died of exhaustion, at least thousands of Rock Crypsis ninjas were killed. At this time, Orochi Maru walked to the front. I'm sorry to have involved everyone in the war again, but this is not something we can choose. The enemy wants to take everything away from us, and the only thing we can do is to protect our homeland with our own strength. Those who agree with me follow me. Chapter 132. It's already the third day since they arrived at the border, and everyone's initial nervousness and excitement has gradually dissipated. Unlike the fierce war everyone imagined, although the days on the border are not peaceful, they are definitely not fighting every day. Except for a small number of ninjas who carry out assassination or intelligence missions, most ninjas' task is to patrol and patrol. Haha, do you think the war is as simple as the ninjas of two villages fighting on the battlefield? In the camp, Kosuke Maruhoshi, who is also a 10,000 years genin, laughed. If that's the case, the previous two shinobi world wars wouldn't have lasted for several years. Garashi nodded secretly. If there is a small war every 3 days and a big war every 5 days with the number of ninjas in the major ninja villages, the population can be wiped out in a month or two. The real situation is that there may be a small-scale conflict in 10 probing, and a large-scale war may break out after 10 small-scale conflicts. In this way, it's not bad to have 1 or 2 large-scale decisive battles a year. Asma sighed, but it's too boring to patrol every day. Kosuke Maruhoshi said sternly, you must not have such slack thoughts. War is about constant probing, and then seizing the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. And your slack thoughts will become the enemy's opportunity. Seeing the old man said so seriously, Asma didn't dare to neglect. I know, I will be careful. That's good, that's good. Kosuke Maruhoshi nodded with relief and immediately laughed at himself. In fact, I am the one who is least qualified to say such words. Because of my short-sightedness, my companions were sacrificed in the mission. Garashi and the others were silent. They also heard that because of this matter, he swore to Naidame Naruto that he will only be a genin forever. Although his own strength is not inferior to a jonin, he is still a jonin. Seeing the atmosphere was a bit dull, Asma said, it seems that it's our turn to patrol. Kosuke Maruhoshi's eyes lit up. Oh? Are you going to use that ability? Garashi smiled and nodded. I'll have to trouble you to protect me again. Hearing him being so polite, the ninjas around laughed. What kind of trouble is this? We should thank you for saving us a lot of trouble. Thanks to you guys, our camp is not as scattered as the other teams. Hurry up and show us the legendary immortal techniques. It didn't take long for him to enter Sage mode. Then, his perception quickly extended with the help of the forest. Zone 47 is safe. Zone 46 is safe. Seeing this, Kosuke Maruxing couldn't help but sigh. You can get information just by staying here. No wonder you're bored. Asma smiled embarrassedly. Actually, Garashi can't use Sage Mode too many times a day. We still have to patrol the area for the rest of the time. Perhaps Red was worried about causing misunderstandings such as why Shushi did not want to help more people, so she explained, Shushi's Sage Mode can only sense this area. It won't work if the range is larger. Kosuke Maruxing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm not talking about him. At this moment, Garashi suddenly said with a grave expression, a large number of Yunin ninjas have appeared in Area 43. There might be around 300 of them. What? There are 300 troops. Kosuke Maruxing's expression changed greatly. It's only the third day and they sent so many people. The ninjas around also changed their expression. This is troublesome. We only have 20 people left in the camp. It's impossible for them to be Yunin's opponent. There might be 5 to 8 Jonins in a team of 300 people. Hurry up and use your summon beast to send information to the central camp and ask for support. At this time, Garashi's expression changed again. Not good, there is a team moving in that direction. If we don't change direction in time, they might encounter them in 3 minutes. Kosuke Maruxing hurriedly asked, Garashi, how many people are in that team? Garashi's expression was serious. About 30 people. Oh no, is there any way to inform them as soon as possible? Summon beasts can only pass information to each other. We can only give it a try. This is war. Luck also determines life and death. Everyone's mood was a little low. The feeling of knowing that the ninjas of the same village were getting closer and closer to death was too uncomfortable. Garashi shook his head slightly. Next, I might have to trouble you to protect me once again. Kosuke Maruxing nodded, but he was still puzzled. Of course, but Garashi, what are you going to do? Garashi sat cross-legged. Since ordinary means won't work, I will try using my soul. Spirit transformation technique. In this regard, Shushi was not worried that he would end up like Kato Duan, who had used the spiritualization technique and been killed by the enemy's sneak attack on his main body. On one hand, he had already used Sage Mode to explore the surrounding situation. On the other hand, his soul was far stronger than Kato Duan's. He could split his soul into 2 and leave a part of it in his body to guard against unexpected situations. The next moment, a pure white spirit floated out from Garashi's head and flew in a certain direction at an unimaginable speed. Everyone in the camp was stunned. After a while, someone spoke with difficulty. If I remember correctly, spirit transformation technique seems to be an S-class ninjutsu, right? Flying Thunder God Jutsu, Sage Mode, and now spirit transformation technique, does he have no limit? In other words, Garashi actually didn't use his full strength in the last Chunin exam? Seeing everyone's crazy look, Asma was relieved. Finally, he wasn't the only one who suffered. Somewhere in the forest, in a bush. I think everyone is tired. Let's rest here. Takuma and Naruto, you two are responsible for guarding. Yes, Hayashi-sama. A group of Hyuga clan members sat down. Some closed their eyes to rest, and some took out soldier food pills to replenish their strength. I thought you would let me pretend to be you on the battlefield. Hizashi, who had a similar face to Hayashi, sneered coldly. In your eyes, is your brother a coward who doesn't even dare to go to the battlefield? Hayashi didn't get angry and just asked calmly. As a member of the main family, if you die on the battlefield, the Hyuga clan will be in big trouble. Hizashi sneered, after all, you don't have a caged bird that can guarantee that the Byakugan won't spread. Don't you have a branch family to protect me? Hayashi laughed. So it's them. Garashi's spirit body floated in the air and swooped down after muttering. Oh, I won't guard. Hizashi said insincerely. Seeing a white light suddenly rushed into Hayashi's body, his expression changed greatly. What's wrong with you? Damn it, what was that just now? Hayashi raised his right hand with a strange expression. Don't worry, it's one of us. At this moment in Hayashi's space of consciousness. Hayashi-sama, I'm sorry to meet you in this way. Oh little brother Garashi, what's the matter? Although they didn't have much interaction before, Hayashi still greeted him very warmly. After all, anyone with a little bit of eyesight can see Garashi's potential in the future. Powerful talent, many friends, Naruto's direct descendant, such a person must not be offended. Garashi knew that time was of the essence, so he went straight to the point. Hayashi-sama, there is a team of 300 Yunin in front of you, please retreat as soon as possible. Chapter 133. What? 300 Yunin ninjas? Hayashi asked with a trembling voice. It's less than 3 minutes away from here. Garashi added. Hayashi didn't have time to ask where Garashi got the information. He hurriedly returned his consciousness to his body, and then used the Byakugan to look ahead, instantly seeing everything in front of him. I can't see, damn it, is this beyond the Byakugan's observation limit? Hayashi no longer hesitated and directly ordered, everyone immediately enter the alert state, clean up the traces and then retreat to Area 45. Although they didn't know why the Patriarch said this, the Hyuga clan's hierarchy was very strict, and naturally they wouldn't question the orders of the main family. Without any objection or hesitation, everyone immediately acted, and in just a few seconds they cleaned up the traces left behind, and then quickly retreated from the right side of the valley. This kind of efficient and swift action made Garashi amazed, but of course this wasn't without its disadvantages. If the main family's decision was wrong, it would lead others into the abyss. Fortunately, in Hayashi's view, Garashi was absolutely trustworthy. If even a member of Naruto's direct line like him betrayed, then the Woodleaf clan should be disbanded as soon as possible. At the same time, in front of the forest. According to the information from the spies, Woodleaf divided the border into 100 areas, and each camp is patrolling 5 to 6 areas, and these areas can overlap, which means that one area may be patrolled by several camps at the same time. Get to the point. Yes, Troy-sama. We are responsible for areas 40 to 50, and try to remove some of Woodleaf's strongholds before they react. At this moment, a Yunin ninja suddenly exclaimed, Troy-sama, my ninja eagle sent a report, there seems to be a group of Woodleaf ninjas escaping at 10 o'clock in front of us, and there are about 30 of them. Finally found Woodleaf ninjas. A Yunin ninja was surprised. Be careful, it's a trap set by Woodleaf. Someone on the side reminded. Just as Troy was in a dilemma about whether to proceed according to the original plan or to eat the fat meat in front of him, a surprised voice helped him make a decision. My ninja eagle just sent another report, the eyes of the escaping ninjas are pure white. It's a ninja from the Hyuga clan. Troy's eyes lit up. As one of the two giants of Woodleaf, Hyuga naturally received a lot of attention, especially on the battlefield. The Byakugan can play a much greater role than the Sharingan. Have your ninja eagle continue to follow them. Troy decisively ordered, everyone else follow me. In the valley. While moving forward at full speed, Hizashi couldn't help but ask, what the hell is going on? Is it because of that white light? Hayashi didn't intend to hide it. He's Tsunade-sama's disciple. Hizashi was shocked. Shimizu Garashi? The genius who suppressed Yunin's Jinchuriki? Hayashi nodded. It was him who used the spiritualization technique to inform me that there is a team of 300 Yunin ninjas in front of us. An army of 300. Hizashi was first shocked by this huge number and then he was shocked again. Spiritualization technique? He has mastered other S-class ninjutsu. Hayashi shook his head and sighed. When we were in school we said that Uchiha Fugaku and I were geniuses, but compared to him, the two of us are really insulting the name of geniuses. Hizashi nodded. That makes sense. Hayashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You. Suddenly, a Hyuga clansman ran over in panic. Hayashi-sama, Yunin's ninja eagle has been following us in the sky, and there seems to be someone following behind us. What? Hayashi hurriedly looked up and saw an eagle hovering in the sky. Oh no, they still found us. Seeing Hayashi's face, Hizashi instantly understood his brother's difficulty. You want to distract yourself to communicate with him, right? Oh, let me carry you on my back. Hayashi didn't argue and nodded decisively. Thank you. The next moment, his mind sank into the space of consciousness again. What a troublemaker. Hizashi coldly snorted. In the space of consciousness. Garashi-san, don't say anything, I can know everything that happens outside through you. Garashi asked in a deep voice. Senpai, what are you going to do? Do you want to kill that ninja eagle? It's too late. Hayashi shook his head, then stared at Garashi and asked, when you found Yunin's trace, you should have reported it to the central camp, right? Yes. I might have to trouble you to make another trip. Help me ask which camps are willing to send reinforcements. If there are enough people, we might be able to fight back. But if there aren't enough people... Hayashi took a deep breath. Please tell the village that I will destroy my eyes before I die. I understand. Thank you. Hayashi said in a deep voice, but he found that the spiritual body in front of him didn't disappear. Well, is there any other warning? Shushi blinked his eyes. My main body is already asking. Hayashi couldn't help but be shocked. Solen too? Your spiritual body is strong to this extent? At the same time in the camp, seeing Garashi suddenly opened his eyes and stood up, the people around him hurriedly asked, "Garashi, how is it?" Garashi shook his head and said in a heavy tone, "We were still discovered. Damn Yunin. What should we do? Should we go and rescue them?" At this time Maruhoshi asked, "Garashi, who is the team being chased?" "It's the Hyuga clan's reconnaissance team, even their clan leader is inside." As soon as his voice fell, there was a sudden panic. "This is troublesome, the Hyuga clan is a very important force. If the eyes of the Hyuga clan fall into Yunin's hands, we will be very passive. We must find a way to rescue them." It's indeed realistic, but war is also about value. If it's an ordinary ninja, they may hesitate whether it's worth it, but the importance of the Hyuga clan on the battlefield has obviously overwhelmed the scales in their hearts. Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Woodleaf was able to win the previous 2 wars for a reason. These people know that nothing will happen if they don't reinforce. Once they reinforce, no matter how smooth the situation is, someone will inevitably be sacrificed, but they still made the decision without hesitation. 27 people from Camp 41, 15 people from Camp 46, 33 people from Camp 47, plus 17 people from our side. Maruhoshi was analyzing when Asuma suddenly shouted, "No, aren't we 20 people here?" The ninjas around looked at each other and laughed. "Hey, you rookies should stay in the camp. You are all geniuses and it's more valuable to survive than us." Kurenai's face turned red. "Your strength may not be as strong as mine." Asuma also said angrily, "Geniuses who don't dare to go to the battlefield, what's the use of being strong?" A group of ninjas looked at each other. They didn't expect the attitude of the little guys to be so firm. Garashi calmly analyzed, "In fact, there's no need to be so pessimistic. The ninjas of the Hyuga clan are all elites, not to mention this team also shoulders the task of guarding the Hyuga main family. Their strength is definitely not weak. Even if they face Yunin ninjas, they can probably fight 3 people at once. Coupled with the people in our camps, the number gap is actually not so big. If the ambush is successful, maybe we can even kill the other party. The most important point is that we don't have time to continue to hesitate." Listening to Garashi's words, a group of ninjas was faintly excited and no longer worried about the 3 of them. Seeing that no one objected, Garashi continued, "Next is to discuss the ambush location. What do you think, senpai?" Although a group of ninjas is experienced, most of them are used to being commanded, and they can't make up their minds for a while. "But, Garashi, what do you think we should do? The only place that is very close to our camps and on their escape route is Thunder Canyon." Garashi recalled the border map and then asked, "What do you think?" Everyone nodded in agreement. "Yes, that's what I think." Me too." "In that case, I'll have to trouble you seniors to inform the rest of the camps to be in place." "No problem, we will inform them now." Kosuke Maruhoshi said inside, "Alas, I hope our ambush will not be discovered by Yunin." Garashi slightly raised the corner of his mouth. "Don't worry, leave it to me. The explanation of detection and perception is in the author's words below. If you have doubts, you can read it." Chapter 134. At this moment in Yunin's team. "Damn it, the Hyuga clan's ninjas are really good at taijutsu, they can run so fast. Fortunately, we've also practiced it." Troy frowned and shouted, "Don't complain, this is the land of fire, if we don't hurry up, we might be discovered by Woodleaf's ninjas." At this time, a Yunin ninja came over and said, "Troy-sama, I think something is wrong. Since they have found us, why don't they run away separately?" Troy asked in a deep voice, "Are you worried about a trap?" The ninja who spoke shook his head. "Although I don't think Woodleaf is stupid enough to use the Hyuga clan's ninjas as bait, it's always right to be careful." Troy nodded. "Sith, let your ninja eagle pay attention to the surrounding movements. If there are any changes, report to me immediately." "Yes," Sith replied, and then couldn't help but say, "Troy-sama, actually, I thought of a possibility." Troy said casually as he ran forward. "Tell me about it." Sith tried his best to follow behind. "I'm thinking, will the Hyuga clan's main family be in the team in front? They don't want to separate, maybe they're ready to be caught up with?" Troy was shocked. The Hyuga clan's main family. The reason why he chased after them was because he knew the importance of the Hyuga clan on the battlefield, so he wanted to take the opportunity to eliminate this team. But if the Hyuga clan's main family was in the team in front, the meaning was completely different. It meant that he might be able to win the precious Byakugan for Yunin. Even if it's not confirmed whether the Hyuga clan's main family was in the team, It's just a possibility and it's worth it. Thinking of this, Troy suppressed the excitement in his heart. Speed up, we must not let them escape. At the same time, in Hayashi's space of consciousness, Garashi relayed the results of the discussion to Hayashi. Hayashi took a deep breath and promised, I will remember everyone's kindness, and when we return to Woodleaf, I will send them gifts one by one. Garashi shook his head slightly. Let's get through the difficulties in front of us first. Although it's easy for me to say, the difference in numbers cannot be ignored. Hayashi nodded approvingly. Then he said regretfully, the key is the ambush? I should have listened to you and gotten rid of that ninja eagle earlier. If I do it now, I'm afraid our purpose will be exposed. No, it should be that they didn't listen to me. That ninja eagle will lead them to the abyss. After saying that, Garashi's spiritual body flew out of the space of consciousness and charged towards the eagle in the sky. Screech. Hearing the eagle's cry, Hayashi's eyes flashed with understanding. So that's how it is. It's all thanks to you. Lightning Gorge. No more, not a single one. Asuma sighed with a distressed expression. The eyes of the surrounding ninjas were full of shock. Asuma's stock of explosive tags alone was equivalent to 1/3 of the total number of 90 of them. Was this the power of money? Phew. There are less than 100 of us ambushing 300 yunin. It's so exciting just thinking about it. I think it's too exciting. There are so many of us lying in ambush here. Will we really not be discovered? Garashi was also worried that he would be shot down by his allies, so he informed them in advance. The ninja eagle used by the Yunin for reconnaissance is already under my control. You guys be careful later. Everyone who was worried suddenly exclaimed, Huh? The ninja eagle is already under your control? Aha, it's so easy to team up with Garashi. He has considered everything for us. Asuma and Kurenai nodded their heads. Although they would often be attacked by Garashi, it was really easy. Garashi's expression changed slightly. They're almost here. Be careful and hide. Everyone did not dare to say anything and quickly hid. In front of Lightning Gorge. Lightning Gorge, this name sounds ominous. A Yunin ninja said unhappily. Troy was also alert. Sith, is everything okay? Sith made a don't worry gesture. Blackie told me that everything is fine. That's good. Troy nodded. Speed up, they won't have any stamina. Boom, boom, boom. The sudden explosion almost covered the sound of thunder in the sky. Waves of fire were noisy, rocks were splashing, and the canyon on both sides was shaking violently. Large pieces of rocks were constantly falling down. 1/3 of the 300 Yunin team was killed in an instant, and the rest were not much better. Almost all of them were injured and they had to dodge the falling rocks in panic. The Hyuga people who had just escaped the canyon were also scared. If they were a few steps slower, they would have been like these Yunin. But what the hell is going on? Seeing that the effect of the trap was far beyond their expectations, everyone who was lying in ambush was ecstatic. No one knew who shouted, but everyone jumped out one by one. Fire release, great fireball technique. Wind release breakthrough. Earth release, earth flow river. As if to vent all the chakra in the body, long-range ninjutsu were thrown out one by one. It's reinforcements. It's our Woodleaf's reinforcements. Join them and fight back together. A group of Hyuga ninjas woke up from their stupor and joined the battle, making the Cloud ninjas who were already overwhelmed even worse. Why did it become like this? It turned out to be Woodleaf's trap. Sith, you bastard. Troy was furious. Didn't I tell you to take care of your bird? However, no one answered. Sith died on the spot when the first wave of explosive tags detonated. Under the 2 waves of attack, only 50 or 60 people survived. And the lowest of these people was a Chunin. Break out. Although he wanted to kill all the Woodleaf ninjas in front of him, Troy barely maintained a trace of sanity and threw out the square shuriken in his hand. He's Yunin's magnet ninja Troy, don't get hit by his shuriken. The experienced Kosuke Maruhoshi warned while rushing to resist. Many people have heard of the other party's name, and they suddenly panicked. What? A magnet ninja like Sandaime Kazekage? This guy is very powerful, be careful. Be sure to avoid his shuriken. Having said that, some people still couldn't avoid Troy's square shuriken. Looking at the wound on his arm, a Chunin panicked. What will happen if I don't dodge? Troy's eyes were cold. You will die. The Chunin who was magnetized seemed to have become a magnetic pole, attracting the square shuriken at a speed of shuttling through space. The next moment, his whole body was directly dismembered. Damn, this bastard has this kind of strength. So powerful. As expected of the magnetic Troy. This cruel scene awakened everyone from their excitement. Even if they have the upper hand now, they can't underestimate any enemy, especially when the other party is a jonin. At this moment an eagle's cry suddenly sounded. Hearing this sound, Troy's eyes were bloodshot, and seeing the ninja eagle flying towards him, his heart was furious. Damn beast, I will kill you. Although he is now anxious to break out, it won't take too much time to kill a ninja eagle. Just as he was thinking this, the ninja eagle's eyes flashed, and a white light shot straight towards him. What is this? Troy subconsciously raised his hand to block. The white light entered his body, and the next moment, his movements slowed down. Of course, a jonin's body can't be controlled as easily as a ninja eagle, but Garashi doesn't want to control Troy's body. What he wants is to cause Troy a little trouble when fighting for control of his body. In the blink of an eye, Garashi has already rushed up, and in front of Troy's horrified eyes, he pressed a Rasengan on his head. Battlefield first kill Yunin Jonin. Chapter 135. Seeing this shocking scene, the entire battlefield was speechless. Even after 2 waves of attacks, the opponent is still a jonin after all, and even among jonins, the magnet release Trojan is considered strong. However, such an expert had been killed by a child. Furthermore, it was an instant kill without any hesitation. This absurd scene caused many of the Yunin ninjas who were still persevering to collapse. Impossible, this must be an illusion. Break. Illusion break. On the other hand, the few superiors who were still alive were more resilient. It's him. The Raikage-sama specifically told us about him. Looks like I won't be able to make it out alive today. Then I'll drag him down to hell with me. The 3 Yunin jonins who were closest to Garashi revealed ferocious expressions. They no longer tried to escape and instead used body flicker jutsu to attack Garashi. However, Garashi was even faster than them. He used the Flying Thunder God technique and returned to the middle of the crowd. Seeing Garashi surrounded by layers of protection, the 3 of them were so angry that they vomited blood. They were really vomiting blood. After being injured by the explosion of the explosive tag and being overwhelmed by a large wave of ninjutsu, they were already mentally and physically exhausted. You bastard, do you still have the dignity of a genius? Damn it, fight me one-on-one if you have the ability. Garashi tilted his head and looked at them as if they were idiots. I'm just a chunin, why would I want to fight with you? The corners of the Yunin jonins' mouths twitched crazily. A newbie chunin? Why don't you tell Troy that? See if he believes you. Kosuke Maruhoshi shouted. There's no need to talk about ninja morality with these Yunin, everyone attack together. Although he is only a genin, Kosuke Maruhoshi is strong and experienced, and his words still carry a lot of weight. As soon as his voice fell, a large wave of ninjutsu rushed towards Yunin and the others. Unlike the previous round, due to the lack of coordination in the previous round, the water escape and fire escape would often cancel each other out, reducing the power of the attacks. That was why the Yunin were able to escape. However, they were not so lucky this time. Under the joint attack, they were defeated immediately. More than half of the original 50 to 60 Yunin ninjas were killed. Seeing this scene, Shushi also felt sad. Unless one reached the level of Uchiha Madara, the suppression of numbers would never be able to be ignored. Even a jonin will be suppressed by the ninjutsu of a dozen chunins. Not long after, all the Yunin ninjas in the Thunder Gorge were killed. On Woodleaf's side, other than a few people who were accidentally killed when they tried to stop the enemy from breaking through, the rest were all alive. The result of this battle left everyone in disbelief. They were all mentally prepared to die, but in the end, this was it? Yunin's ninjas are really useless. Even though it was 3 against 1, we still managed to kill them. Don't get carried away. It's all thanks to Garashi that we were able to achieve this result. Yes, and Garashi's bird as well. Even Yunin's magnet release Trojan was instantly killed. Is Garashi really a chunin? At this time, the Hyuga ninjas also learned about what happened from Hayashi, and they looked at Garashi with eyes full of gratitude. After Hayashi expressed his gratitude to the others and promised to compensate the ninjas who died in the battle, he solemnly walked in front of Garashi. Garashi, this time I really can't thank you enough. If you need my help in the future, please don't hesitate to ask. Garashi blinked and said, no need to wait for the future, let's do it now. Hayashi was taken aback and said with a dumbfounded expression. Please say it. Garashi said seriously, please use your strength to win this war for Woodleaf. Looking at Garashi's sincere eyes, Hayashi took a deep breath and nodded heavily. I will do it. Central Camp. I didn't expect a stinky snake like you to be able to command a party. Jiraiya leaned back in his chair and sighed with emotion. In the last war the three of us teamed up to challenge Hanzo. It's still vivid in my mind. Haha, time is such a ruthless existence. Orochimaru laughed. But if you want to be the commander it's not too late. Forget it, I don't want to be your deputy. Jiraiya waved his hand in disgust and then said proudly, and I believe that Minato will do a better job than me. Orochimaru nodded. That's right. Isn't it? Jiraiya said proudly, but suddenly he felt that something was wrong. Wait, what are you saying? At this time the Yamanaka ninja in charge of delivering information rushed in. Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, there's news about the Yunin squadron. Orochimaru was still calm, but Jiraiya quickly asked. Did Minato's reinforcement team catch up? No. Kurumike's was stunned and then said excitedly, it's Camp 45 that joined forces with several surrounding camps to reinforce at the same time. Not only did they save the Hyuga team, but they also successfully destroyed the Yunin team. What? Did they contact more than a dozen camps? Jiraiya's eyes widened, but he quickly denied his guess. No, those camps are too far away, it shouldn't be so fast. Kurumike's answered truthfully. There are a total of 4 camps, 95 people, even including the Hyuga team, there are only 125 people. Only so few people then they... Jiraiya was interrupted by Orochimaru before he finished. What about our losses? Less than 10 people. Even Kurumike's himself was in a trance when he said this. Cough. Jiraiya choked on his own saliva and asked incredulously. Less than 10 people, how is this possible? Are Yunin's ninjas idiots? Orochimaru also asked, how did they do it? Kurumike's just shook his head. I don't know the details, but I heard that under the leadership of Shimizu Garashi, they successfully ambushed Yunin. Oh, if it's him? Jiraiya said with emotion, but he heard Orochimaru sigh with him. It's not surprising if it's him. Jiraiya looked at him suspiciously. When did you know so much about Garashi? Orochimaru smiled calmly. Who told you to come back now and miss the good show of the Chunin exam? You know, even all snakes are afraid of him. Jiraiya was really fooled. He was shocked. What? Even that bastard snake dowager is scared? After he came back he also heard about what happened in the Chunin exam, but most of it was the battle between Garashi and the Jinchuriki. He really didn't know about the changes in the Forest of Death. Orochimaru smiled softly. After all, it was almost killed this time. Seeing that the two were getting further and further away, Kurumike's asked eagerly. Orochimaru-sama, what should we do next? First, confirm the specific situation. If it's really his credit, then spread it out. Orochimaru squinted his eyes and smiled. War needs heroes, whether it's to raise morale or to attack the enemy. Jiraiya hurriedly shouted, wait, you're putting him on the fire to roast him. He will be assassinated as a thorn in their side. Orochimaru glanced at him as if he was an idiot. After this Chunin exam, do you think Yunin will still be indifferent? Even if we don't take the initiative to spread it, Yunin will never let him go. Jiraiya was stunned. He didn't personally experience the Chunin exam, so he was indeed a little slow on the attitude of the villages. Orochimaru smiled and patted Jiraiya on the shoulder. Have more confidence in him, Garashi-kun is a man who can create miracles. Chapter 136. Yunin Village, Reikage Building. What did you say? Reikage stared at Tsutai and roared. It's the news from Woodleaf himself. Tsutai wiped the sweat from his forehead and said with difficulty. He said that the squadron led by Troy was ambushed by Shimizu Garashi and wiped out our people at a very small cost. With that, he added, but they didn't spread the specific details. Damn it, it's that little devil again. Reikage punched the desk in front of him and was very angry. That's an army of 300 ninjas. Such a military force can even attack a weak country. More importantly, there are 6 jonin, each jonin is a valuable asset of Yunin, they are important for him to dare to start a war. But the war just started a few days ago, his capital has been greatly reduced. Thinking of this, his heart twitched. Reikage-sama, we must quickly come up with a countermeasure. Tsutai said anxiously. Woodleaf's propaganda is too big a blow to the morale. Reikage said with a cold face, then let's let AI and Killer compete. Tsutai was shocked and hesitant. Are they going to go on stage so soon? Isn't it too early? Reikage said indifferently, a greenhouse can't raise strong people, only the battlefield is the best school. Tsutai took a deep breath. I understand, I will let them prepare. Half a month later, the central camp. In order to prevent Yunin from knowing the location of the camp will be changed every once in a while, even the location of the camp will change accordingly. I don't know where we will be changed this time. In short, I hope it will be close to the front line. Bordered Soil said outside the camp. It's better not to, I don't want to save you. Kakashi said indifferently. Bastard Kakashi, who wants you to save me? No, who said that this uncle will be captured by the enemy? Obito's face was mad, and then he saw Kakashi's cold eyes shining brightly. Senpai. Seeing Kakashi left him, Bordered Soil was surprised at first, but immediately followed him excitedly. Senpai, I heard that you annihilated a large group of enemies some time ago? Shushi, I heard that you killed that Magneton Troy with your own hands? That's a very powerful Jonin. It's really amazing, we haven't even seen the enemy's shadow. As a famous figure on the battlefield, Garashi was surrounded by people as soon as he returned to the camp. Of course, this is because they haven't experienced the war, otherwise they wouldn't have such superfluous thoughts. Shushi smiled bitterly and raised his hands. Sorry, let's talk about this later. I have to go to the field hospital now. Hospital? Did something happen? His face became serious. I just got the news that a large number of ninjas were seriously injured. Hearing Garashi, no one dared to stop him. Then Shushi, you should hurry over. It's too sudden, how could this happen? Rin raised her small hand nervously. I am also a medical ninja, can I also go with you? Garashi nodded. Of course, there is a shortage of people over there. As if to encourage herself, Rin waved her hand vigorously. Thank you, Senpai, I will work hard. Field hospital. Although it's called a hospital, it's actually a large tent temporarily set up. Before he went in, he could hear painful screams coming from inside. Ah, kill me, kill me. Bastard, where the hell are the doctors? As soon as he entered the tent, a pungent smell of blood and medicine mixed together rushed to his face. But Garashi's face didn't change, he just glanced at everyone with a serious and heavy gaze. There are about 170 wounded people, but there are less than 50 medical ninjas in charge of treatment. Each camp is equipped with a medical ninja for first aid, and the team carrying out the infiltration mission will also be equipped with a medical ninja to increase the survival rate of the team. In this way, even the camp can't leave too many medical ninjas. Rin covered her small mouth in surprise. So many people. Garashi shook his head slightly. There's no other way, we can only find external help. Summoning technique. The next moment, a slug appeared in the tent. Hey, I'm back. Slug, please split out to treat everyone. Yes, Roger. As soon as the voice fell, the big slug split into dozens of small slugs, and then jumped toward the wounded people. Is it Tsunade-sama? That's great. We're saved. Idiot, it's Garashi. Haha, little brother Shushi is too great. At this time, Bordered Soil, who was left outside, asked. Red Senpai, what happened? Asma, who was about to answer, was stunned. Why don't you ask me? Bordered Soil's small face was tangled. I still can't, looking at your face, I really can't call you Senpai. Red covered her mouth and snickered, then said seriously, I heard that Yunin sent a Jinchuriki. Jinchuriki? Bordered Soil wondered. The Tsuyuki? Is she so powerful? It's a ninja named Killer Bee, the Hachibi Jinchuriki. Red's eyes were full of fear. I heard that he used a super terrible power called Bijidama as soon as he appeared, and killed hundreds of ninjas in an instant. If Minato-san didn't use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu in time to transfer the Bijidama, maybe no one will be able to come back this time. At the same time in the camp's conference room, the atmosphere was very serious. Yunin, these bastards directly used the Hachibi Jinchuriki, do they think we don't have one here? Jiraiya patted Minato's shoulder and shouted. Call Shinakushina out, at worst we will start the Bijou War. Minato smiled bitterly. If Shinakushina knows, she will be happy to come out. Jiraiya laughed. That's it. It's not that simple. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Most of the consultants in the village are not willing to take this risk until the last moment. Jiraiya stared. What risk can there be? Orochimaru chuckled. For example, Jinchuriki lost on the battlefield, or Kyuubi broke free from the seal, or even the little girl took the opportunity to escape from Woodleaf. There are too many similar reasons, do I need to say more? Jiraiya's mouth twitched. Can't you guys think more normally? Minato said seriously, Shinakushina will never leave Woodleaf. Orochimaru spread out his hands. It's useless to say this to me. In some people's eyes, the little girl's first identity will always be the descendant of the land of whirlpools, and our wood leaf. Cough cough, don't talk too much. Jiraiya tried to smooth things over. The problem now is how to deal with the threat of the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. You know, the Hachibi is second only to the Kyubi. Although the Hachibi is powerful, it's not impossible to deal with it. Orochimaru's face was gloomy. The key is how to deal with its threat on the battlefield. At our level we can only kill a dozen enemies at a time, but a Bijidama is different, it can wipe us out. Jiraiya nodded, then looked at Minato and asked, Minato, can you transfer every Bijidama away? Minato's eyes were dignified. If he is alone I can do it, but he and the other ninja named AI cooperate too well. I'm not sure if I can transfer each Bijidama while they are working together. Orochimaru added, that A is the son of the third Raikage. He inherited the name A, so he's actually a reserve Raikage. His strength is not weaker than us. Jiraiya said without hesitation. That's easy, he'll be left to me. You can't leave. Orochimaru decisively refused. I'm not the Raikage's opponent alone. Then what should we do? Jiraiya stared. Should we call the old man out of the village? Minato raised his hand weakly and said, I have a proposal, or, let Garashi cooperate with me. Chapter 137. Garashi. Jiraiya looked at Minato with a puzzled look. What do you think? Garashi is not weak, but it's absolutely impossible for him to be the opponent of the Hachibi Jinchuriki or that, right? Orochimaru's eyes were calm. Minato-kun, tell me your thoughts. Minato said seriously, although the Hachibi Jinchuriki is powerful, the root of his strength lies in his perfect compatibility with the tailed beast. As far as he is concerned, he is still too young. Jiraiya nodded subconsciously. He heard that Killer Bee is only 14 years old, which is really too young compared to the real strong. Orochimaru muttered, is it because of physical limitations? Minato nodded in agreement. The complete transformation is also a big burden for the Jinchuriki. This time, it ended early because he couldn't support it and changed back to his original form. And the biggest advantage of the ninjas who practice the Flying Thunder God Jutsu is that they are entangled. If I can entangle A and give the Jinchuriki to Garashi to deal with, as long as Garashi can survive the transformation period, Yunin may be the unlucky one. They may even be afraid of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, so they don't dare to transform on the battlefield. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. I think Minato is too optimistic. The complete form is the strongest, and the Bijidama is the most threatening, but it may be diverted by the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. The burden of the human form is the least, but the pressure given is not enough. In this way they will most likely choose to use the half-tailed beast to defeat Garashi first. Although the strength is not as good as the complete form, the half-tailed beast is much smaller in size and has a great advantage in speed. Don't worry, Garashi already has experience in dealing with the half-tailed beast. Orochimaru flicked the bangs on his forehead. Although the Nibi is not as good as the Hachibi, the battlefield is not as narrow and limited as the arena, and it is enough to play the advantage of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. If they really fight, it's hard to say who will win and who will lose. In my opinion, the real trouble is their cooperation. Cooperation? Minato was puzzled. Perhaps Minate-kun doesn't know? Yunin has always had a tradition of pairing their shadows with partners. One person inherits the name AI, and the other inherits the name Bai. The deep bond between them makes them invincible on the battlefield. Orochimaru's tone was serious. So, even if the two of you deal with one of them separately, it is very likely that they will seize the opportunity and use a moment of perfect cooperation to defeat each of you. Fetters? Minato felt that it was a pity. If Shinakushina could play, the two of them would definitely be stronger than the Yunin brothers. Jiraiya pulled his hair hard. Then what should we do? Don't tell me that Minato and Garashi should seize the time to cultivate tacit understanding. Orochimaru shrugged. Don't look at me. There's no such thing as tacit understanding between us. Jiraiya jumped on the table, squatted in front of Orochimaru, and pointed at his nose with a look of disgust. Who wants to have tacit understanding with a stinky snake like you? Ha, anyway, you can only have tacit understanding with a toad for the rest of your life. You bastard. Seeing that the two of them suddenly went off topic, Minato quickly stood up and said, We've been discussing for so long, shouldn't we ask for Garashi's opinion? Jiraiya and Orochimaru looked at each other. That's right, this mission isn't very safe. If Garashi accidentally loses an arm or a leg, won't they be directly crippled by Tsunade? After asking for his opinion, even if something happens they can at least avoid it. But Tsunade doesn't seem to be the kind of person who will listen to explanations. Not good. Seeing the color in the eyes of his sensei and senpai, Minato suddenly woke up. If something happens to Garashi during the battle, won't he be beaten up when he returns? Not good. Field hospital. Phew. I seem to have run out of chakra. Rin struggled to wipe the sweat on her head and cast a look of admiration to the side. Compared to senpai, I'm really far behind. Garashi chuckled softly, you've done well enough. I'm aiming for you, senpai. Just as Rin said excitedly, Yamanaka Kaze hurried in. Excuse me, Garashi, Orochimaru-sama wants to see you now. Rin puffed up her cheeks. That's too much, senpai just came back from outside and before he had time to sit down he was called to save people, and then you call him away, can't you let senpai rest? The injured ninjas around were also dissatisfied. That's right, Garashi-san is already very tired. He's just a child. Yamanaka Kaze knew that he was in the wrong, so he had to put his hands together. Sorry, it's really urgent. Garashi shook his head helplessly. Well, I'll go with you. Soon, under the guidance of Yamanaka Kaze, Rinsei arrived at a simple temporary conference room. Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, Minato-san. Garashi greeted them one by one. Come and sit down. Jiraiya responded enthusiastically. After a little greeting, Orochimaru went straight to the point. Garashi-kun, you should have heard about what happened on the battlefield today, right? Garashi was ready. Hachibi's Jinchuriki? Orochimaru nodded and continued. Yes, Yunin's Killer Bee is a perfect Jinchuriki who can control the Bijudama, and his Bijudama is the biggest threat we've ever encountered on the battlefield. Garashi naturally understood Orochimaru's concern. If it was a private battle, none of them would be afraid, but on the battlefield the threat of Bijudama is too great, it can easily destroy the entire camp. The most important thing is that they can't hide. After all, they can avoid the Bijudama, but the ninjas behind them can't, which means that they can only use the method of transferring or blocking to break the Bijudama. Orochimaru's voice was heavy. With Garashi-kun's intelligence, it shouldn't be difficult to guess that the only way we can break the Bijudama is the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. However, the cooperation between Killer Bee and another powerful ninja named A is too good. It's difficult for Minato to transfer all the Bijudama, and Jiraiya and I have to guard against Raikage's attack, so... I understand. Garashi looked calm. So, you want me and Minato Dage to block Yunin's Jinchuriki? Jiraiya rubbed his palms and smiled. Haha, if you don't agree then forget it, I'll go back to the village and kidnap the old man. Fight against Killer Bee? With Minato Dage's cooperation, this is a good opportunity. Garashi's heart flashed with this idea, and then said in a firm tone, everyone is risking their lives for this war, how can I back down? Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, please let me go, I will do my best to cooperate with Minato Dage. Orochimaru couldn't help but praise. Garashi-kun is worthy of being the one who comprehended the will of fire. Very good, then it's decided. Jiraiya sighed helplessly. Then you should hurry up and break in, the bond between Yunin's brothers is not easy to deal with. Garashi slightly shook his head. How can this kind of thing be done? The bond between the two brothers can't be broken in a short time. Orochimaru also agreed. With Raikage's character, it won't be long before he launches a second attack. Garashi, you don't have to go back to the camp, stay here and cooperate with Minato several times. Chapter 138. The meeting ended. Walking out of the tent, Garashi was about to talk to Minato about his idea, but he saw Minato's serious expression and couldn't help but ask, Brother Minato, are you thinking about how to cooperate? Hearing Garashi's voice, Minato woke up from his contemplation, and then said with great interest, Garashi, I heard from Sensei that Yunin inherited the names A and B. The two have always been called the A and B combination. I think, should we also give our combination a better name? Garashi suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Then what do you think, Brother Minato? Minato clapped his hands. Yes, how about the Spiral Flying Thunder Sky Dance Jitsang combination? Shushi sucked in a breath of cold air. I think. Minato rubbed his chin and thought. No? What about the Woodleaf Tiger Shinobi World Destruction Dragon combination? Garashi's eyes gradually became dull. Actually, Minato's inspiration broke out again. The Thunder Arrow 10-4 Light combination seems good, and if it doesn't work, the Woodleaf Gemini Flying Thunder God Golden Light Dance Roar combination is also good. Garashi sighed. Brother Minato, Promise me don't use your talent when naming your child in the future. Fortunately, Naruto used the name of the protagonist in Jiraiya's book. Otherwise would he call him Golden Light Invincible Shining Gale style? In order to prevent Watergate from continuing on this topic, Shushi hurriedly said, Brother Watergate, I have some different ideas about the cooperation this time. Minato naturally knew the priorities of the matter and immediately got into the mood. Garashi, you say it? Garashi said seriously, according to Orochimaru-sama, Yunin's A and B combination has always cultivated tacit understanding since childhood. In just a few days, let alone surpassing them, it's difficult to even get close to that level. Minato nodded, this kind of thing is indeed not something that can be done with talent. Alas, if only it could be as simple as practicing ninjutsu. Garashi continued, therefore we might as well shift our attention from developing tacit understanding to the cooperation of the Flying Thunder God. With Minato's intelligence, he naturally understood Garashi's idea in an instant. You mean, mark each other with the Flying Thunder God technique? Garashi nodded. We can teleport to each other's side in an instant and start a simple and crude 2 versus 1 battle. Minato was also getting into a good mood. I heard from Sensei that their combination technique is to attack from the front and back at the same time. This means that they can only use the combination technique when they are separated. Garashi continued, as long as they split up, we'll fight 2 against 1. If they converge, we'll disperse quickly and completely disrupt their rhythm. Minato seemed to have opened the door to a new era. In the past, he was the only one who used the Flying Thunder God technique. Naturally, he didn't have many choices. Now that 2 people were using the Flying Thunder God technique at the same time, there seemed to be many new tricks to play. Thinking of this, Minato felt his hands begin to move. Then let's try our best to familiarize ourselves with our opponent's tactics in the next few days. Neo Thunder Hot Sword. 2 galloping thunder flashed, only to hear the sound of an explosion. The neck of the stone colossus standing on the flat ground was broken. Very good, your strength is getting closer and closer to mine. Not enough, this strength is not enough, I want to continue to eat meat, yo. Several people next to him have long been accustomed to Killer Bee's rap. Naturally, they were not surprised. Tadaichi in the field checked the broken neck of the stone colossus and stood up excitedly to report. Reikage-sama, by AI and B's Neo Thunder Hot Sword has surpassed the previous ABs. Their combination will definitely become the nightmare of those with leaf ninjas. Reikage looked at the 2 with satisfaction. Even I don't dare to take your attack. A was a little unhappy. B wants to transform into Hachibi on the battlefield, there is no room for us to cooperate at all. You're wrong, A. Reikage said with a serious look on his face. Konoha's Orochimaru is not an easy person to deal with, since he knows about the existence of Bai, he will never let such a big threat go. A frowned. Dad, you mean that Namikaze Minato? Reikage solemnly said, he can transfer B's Baijidama, and easily escape from the battlefield under your joint attack. That guy's application of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu is even above that of Shimizu Garashi. I said with some depression. This time I was careless, next time I will never let him escape. Next time? You think there will be a next time? Reikage coldly snorted. Woodleaf's people are not fools, and they will definitely equip him with powerful companions. Maybe it will be his Sannin sensei. A's eyes suddenly brightened. In other words, next is the real battle between B and me? Killer B was also cheerful. The cooperation is about to begin and all the enemies will die, yeah. Don't be careless, your goal this time is not to kill how many enemies but to kill that Namikaze Minato. Reikage seriously warned, to deal with a ninja with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, Neo Reikage is your only chance. Yes. B, let's hurry up and practice. Time is tight, we can't make mistakes, the enemy is not weak. 5 days later in a forest in the rear. Fire release, Great Flame Bullet. Earth release, Swamp. The 2 Jiraiya used ninjutsu back-to-back in 2 directions, but Garashi and Minato easily dodged them. The essence of a ninja was wandering and sneak attacks. Standing still like this, their thoughts and movements were naturally seen through at a glance. Jiraiya certainly knew that he would be passive if he continued like this, but he really had no choice. Garashi and Minato stood opposite each other. If his 2 clones attacked one person at the same time, it meant that his back was exposed to the other person's eyes. If they attacked separately, one of them would immediately move to the other person's side, and then use despicable means to bully a 33-year-old ninja like him. In desperation he could only move back-to-back like this, and the result was that he became a live target because of his inconvenience. After another round of long-range attacks, Jiraiya finally couldn't stand it anymore. "I don't want to play anymore, you guys are too shameless," Minato said softly. "I'm really sorry to trouble you, sensei." Garashi also said, "Thank you, Jiraiya-sama, for accompanying us to experiment with tactics." Hearing their words, Jiraiya was embarrassed, and after laughing awkwardly he sighed, "I don't feel anything about the flying thunder god jutsu alone, but with two of them together, it's really too shameless." As he said that, he gloated, "Hee, I hope that Yunin's A and B team can still maintain their normal mentality after meeting you guys." At this time the contact snake on the side disappeared with a bang. Seeing this, Jiraiya's face became serious. The summoned beast has been summoned back, which means that the battle is about to start again. Chapter 139. In the temporary conference room. The Jonins who participated in the meeting had a serious look on their faces. Although they knew that Yunin wouldn't give them too much time, they still felt unprepared when the war came. After all, some of them are still immersed in the shock brought by the Bijidama a few days ago. Orochimaru sat at the head of the table and clenched his hands. "Time is tight, I won't say much, everything will proceed according to the pre-war plan, get ready to act." Seeing that Orochimaru was so concise and didn't even mention the Hachibi Jinchuriki, a Jonin couldn't help but ask, "Orochimaru-sama, how should we deal with the threat of the Bijidama?" Orochimaru no longer concealed it. "You don't have to worry about the Jinchuriki, just leave it to Minato and Garashi." Many Jonins were surprised. What, Garashi? Many of them knew that Garashi was called by Orochimaru a few days ago, but they didn't think about it. Many of them even thought that Orochimaru deliberately did it for Yunin's spies. Because they all know that Garashi had a very weak advantage in the Chunin exam, and even relied on sealing techniques to barely defeat the Nibi Jinchuriki. It's a very simple deduction. Hachibi Nibi Perfect Jinchuriki Normal Jinchuriki 14 years old 8 years old God. Killer B Yukigarashi is almost equal to Yukigod. Killer B Garashi. Thinking of this, a group of Jonins hurriedly dissuaded. "Orochimaru-sama, isn't this decision too hasty? Garashi's talent is very strong, but he's too young after all, such a heavy responsibility may overwhelm him." At this moment, there was a gloating laugh outside the conference room. "Ah, you stinky snake's prestige is not that good." Jiraiya walked into the tent and glanced at the crowd confidently. "Of course, I'm on the same side as him on this issue. Even if you don't trust him, you should at least trust me. It's obvious that you're the one who's more unreliable." The corners of the Jonins' mouths twitched a little. However, since the two Sannin said so, it did indeed make them re-examine their previous views. Seeing that his words were indeed more effective than Orochimaru's, Jiraiya couldn't help but proudly wink at someone. Orochimaru thought that Jiraiya was just trying to show off. He said indifferently, "Yunin's 1,000 troops are already here. There's no time for you to hesitate." Very quickly the troops left in the main camp were mobilized. Because Raikage took the initiative to appear on the other side of the border, Orochimaru and Jiraiya went to intercept him, and the position of the highest commander of this unit fell on Minato. Fortunately, he used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to transfer the Bijidama and saved most of the ninjas on the battlefield, which has won the respect of all the Jonin, and no one questioned his decision. "Jizuru-san, Tang-san, I'll have to trouble you to deliberately guide our ninjas to the sides, and don't get close to the center of the battlefield." Hearing Minato's instructions, Inuzuka-ja and Akimichi nodded seriously. As Jonin, of course, they knew how terrible the Hachibi's battle was. Even the aftermath of the battle may cause damage to ordinary ninjas. "And these kunai, please, accidentally, leave them on the battlefield." Minato took out a few kunai and handed them over. If you look carefully, you can find that there are very hidden jutsu marks on them. Inuzuka-ja's eyes lit up, and he understood Minato's meaning. "Are we going to pretend to retreat and try to give the battlefield to them?" Minato nodded and looked ahead solemnly. "Leave the rest to me and Shushi." Walking to the edge of the forest, Yunin was already waiting on the opposite side. For most of the Yunin ninjas who practice taijutsu and like to rampage, the wide and flat plains are their favorite. Konoha's ninja also knew this and deliberately stayed in the forest and didn't go out. Of course, these advantages don't mean much to the protagonists of today's war. On the opposite side, a directly walked out of the formation. "Namikaze Minato, you're finally willing to come out." Minato was a little confused. "You're looking for me?" You're the first one who can stop me and B from taking action, and even leave calmly afterwards. A said, and suddenly an arc of lightning appeared on his body. So, I'm going to wash away this shame today. As his voice fell, he turned into blue lightning and went straight to Minato. This scene shocked everyone. In front of thousands of woodleaf ninjas, he rushed directly into the enemy's base. Wasn't this too reckless? Although they complained, there were only a few who could really react and attack. In the lightning chakra mode, A's speed was almost beyond the understanding of normal human beings. However, Garashi and Minato were not among them. Noticing A's attack, the two of them threw their kunai gently. Ai's fist went straight to the tip of Minato's nose. The fist was so strong that it almost stirred up a gust of wind, making Minato subconsciously squint his eyes. But in the next moment, he appeared behind A, holding the thrown kunai in his hand and was ready to stab A's back. Idiot! How can I fall for the same trick twice? AI laughed and chopped with a backhand chop. I've won this time. Thunder dominates water. Boom. The hit Minato turned into a smoke and dissipated. Damn it, I fell into a trap again. Seeing this situation, A didn't understand what was going on. He looked back in shock and anger, only to see Minato holding a kunai and stabbing it at his eyes. The cold light of the kunai's tip was constantly magnified in A's pupils. Just as the cold light was about to occupy his whole vision, a thick and big octopus leg slammed him out and took A's place to be cut off by Minato. This sudden turn of events caused everyone's hearts to tremble with fear, and they were so nervous that they couldn't breathe. However, not everyone was attracted by this scene. Opportunity. Among the crowd, Shueisha, who has been holding back, quietly used his chakra thread to move the direction of the kunai he threw before, and when everyone's attention was attracted by the octopus leg, he teleported in front of A and pressed the kunai hard. Super Jade Rasengan. Even with the defense of AI's armor, he was caught off guard by Garashi. Blood splattered and even his chest caved in. Big brother. Killer Bee's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. With a roar, he directly entered his half-tailed beast mode and rushed towards the place where AI had been sent flying. He finally retained some rationality and knew that his complete form was not as fast as the half-tailed beast mode. Garashi and Minato looked at each other tacitly and rushed to A's position. But the speed of the two was much slower than Killer Bee in the half-tailed beast mode, and they saw the scarlet monster rushing to A's side. Fortunately, we made it in time. Killer Bee was rejoicing. Suddenly his pupils shrank violently, because he saw two strange marks on his big brother's body, which seemed to be Flying Thunder God technique. Chapter 140. Killer Bee looked up and found that the two bastards teleported over and attacked his brother with an oversized Rasengan. Why didn't they kill my brother before I got here? Could it be that they want to use my brother to drag me down? Although he had some doubts in his heart, Killer Bee didn't have time to think about it. He gritted his teeth and stood in front of A, while he tied with his tail and planned to use chakra to heal him. Ha, you were fooled? After perceiving the fluctuation of chakra, A suddenly opened his eyes and was about to take revenge, but he was inexplicably tied up. What happened? The same doubts emerged in the hearts of Killer Bee and A. Before they could ask, Killer Bee was sent flying hundreds of meters away by two Rasengan. A knew that it was Killer Bee's tail that tied him and didn't dare to violently break free. As a result, he was dragged on the ground. At this time, the ninjas on Yunan's side woke up from a dream and hurriedly stepped forward to surround Killer Bee and A. On the other hand, Konoha's side burst into enthusiastic cheers. Team A and Team B, who had given them a hard time in the last battle, had been defeated as soon as they came up. The strong contrast made them feel unreal. It's really amazing. I didn't even have time to react, and the enemy was defeated. It was obviously so difficult last time, how come it suddenly turned around today? The enemy's strength has not weakened. If there is a difference, it may be that we have one more person this time. It's Garashi. It must be because of Garashi that our combat power has undergone a qualitative change. Yes, the cooperation between the two of them is not a simple 1 plus 1, but a multiplication. Something seems wrong? On the other side of the battlefield. Cough, brother, are you okay? Killer Bee is worthy of being the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Under the situation of two Rasengan, he spat a few mouthfuls of blood and struggled to stand up again. Of course, this is also because he entered the half-tailed beast mode in advance. If he was in the normal human state, he would definitely be seriously injured. I'm fine. AI spat out a mouthful of blood. Although his lightning armor is powerful after all, it still can't compare to the healing ability of the tailed beast mode. After being hit by Otama Rasengan and being dragged all the way, his physical condition naturally can't be much better. Let me heal you, big brother. Killer Bee couldn't care less about rapping now. He hurriedly transmitted chakra. However, AI didn't care. He just stared at the two people opposite him. How did you find out that I didn't faint? He now understood that the two bastards must have seen through his act, but they didn't say anything. They deliberately led him to receive their attacks. However, there was still one thing that he did not understand. How did they see through his perfect acting? Your quick wit is worthy of praise, but it's a pity that you used it on the wrong person, Garashi said with a smile. Minato also looked at him with a strange look. Garashi is the top medical ninja in the ninja world. After being injured by him, you pretended to be unconscious. What were you thinking? AI, who barely recovered, was ashamed and angry. He rarely used tricks twice. The first time he wanted to use his reckless character to lure the other party, but he was used by the other party. The second time he pretended to be unconscious to lure the other party to attack him, but he was used by the other party again. What a great humiliation. This is a serious insult to his IQ. Just as AI was getting more and more irritable, a face that made him disgusted suddenly appeared in front of him. Yunin looked at Garashi, who suddenly appeared in their encirclement, and her brain stopped working. Is this taking the initiative to die? But before they could react, they saw Garashi put his right hand on AI's shoulder and teleported back to Woodleaf's camp with AI. Looking at the gradually fierce eyes around him, AI's mouth twitched. It's over, he seems to have been schemed against again. If he can't get rid of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, he will have to be careful not to be beheaded while sleeping. The next moment, a large wave of ninjutsu poured on AI. Even if the level of ninjutsu used in a hurry is not high, it still made him cry out in pain. Yunin's side reacted and hurriedly rushed forward. Attack. Save AI-sama. Go, let these Woodleaf ninjas know our power. The rest of Woodleaf ninjas also faced the enemy head-on, and the battlefield instantly became chaotic. An extremely terrible chakra wave condensed on the battlefield. Garashi and Minato looked and saw a Bijudama gradually forming in Killer Bee's mouth. Half-tailed beast can also use Bijudama, but the power is not as good as the complete form. Even so, this kind of power can't be ignored. Minato didn't dare to neglect and quickly rushed forward to transfer the Bijudama. But at this moment, A, who was previously submerged in the ninjutsu flood, suddenly broke out. Kid, don't think you have won, transferring me is the biggest mistake you made. At the same time, the octopus foot that was cut off by Minato at the beginning also turned into Killer Bee's appearance, and rushed toward Garashi in the same posture. Nyo Thunder Hot Sword. The three of them were very close to each other, and for the A and B combination who are good at speed, this distance is not even a millisecond. It can be said that their cooperation is even beyond the limit of humans' nerve reaction. In such a short time, even Garashi couldn't react, and the next moment, a big head was directly broken. Ah, Shimizu Garashi. I laughed loudly, and then saw the person whose neck was broken turned into the appearance of the third Reikage, and couldn't help but scream in horror. Oyaji! Boom. An attack came from nowhere and hit A, who was in a state of confusion. Big brother, wake up. The chakra in his body was disturbed and finally, A woke up, but he was hit hard again and his state has fallen to the bottom. This bastard dared to trick me into calling him daddy. I was ashamed and angry at the same time, but at the same time, there was a burst of fear in his heart. Although it was partly due to his heavy injuries, to be able to make him fall for it in an instant, this fellow's illusions were ridiculously powerful. He now finally understood the pressure that the candidates in the Chunin exam faced with this guy. This bastard is obviously younger than me, but his strength is stronger than me in my normal state. How did he train? Killer Bee was also very afraid, whether it was the ninjutsu mastered or the sense of fighting, this guy is perfect. On the other side, Garashi looked at the two and thought, finally he changed. With the memory of his previous life, he naturally knew that the Hachibi's tail can become a clone, so he didn't ignore the octopus leg from the beginning. In this way, I have a reason to seal his octopus leg. Chapter 141. AI Chang took a deep breath and cheered up again. B, let your main body continue to use Bijudama to distract Minato. The two of us will try to kill him. Although their initial mission was to kill Minato, that was because they didn't expect Shimizu Garashi to appear. In this situation, killing Shimizu Garashi was undoubtedly more cost-effective. Seeing that his brother was still so strong and was not affected by the previous failure, Killer Bee also relaxed a little and gestured towards Garashi. "You bastard, you idiot, let me beat you into a fool. The famous A and B team besieged me, should I be honored or unlucky?" Having said that, Garashi didn't worry much. Under normal circumstances, it would be very troublesome for him to deal with either of them. However, one of them was half dead and the other was a clone, so he had no pressure to deal with them. "It's time to go, B." A reminded, then activated his body and rushed up. "My charm is shining, please take care of me," Killer Bee said while pulling out the short sword behind him. Garashi also calmed down and watched the movements of the two carefully. At the moment A's heavy punch came, he teleported to a big tree next to him. Killer Bee, who had been observing Garashi's foothold, quickly changed his direction and went to meet him. Although his reaction was already very fast, he still missed. However, he was not frustrated, but he crushed the kunai that Garashi left on the tree. Seeing this, A changed his previous violent offensive, and while chasing Garashi, he erased the coordinates left by Garashi in advance. "Damn brat, I want to see how many jutsu you set in advance." However, a minute passed. Garashi's coordinates seemed to be endless, and he didn't seem to be affected at all. I couldn't help but ask angrily, "How many jutsu did you set?" With his speed he could chase 2 or 3 times in a second. In this minute he even erased more than 100 coordinates. Garashi sighed, "Who knows? Can you help me count it?" "Bastard, we won't make it in time if this continues." AI knew that the pressure of continuously firing by Jidama was great, and Yunin didn't have much time left. Once again he rushed past Garashi's afterimage, but this time he did not change direction midway. Instead he rushed to the side of the battlefield without slowing down. Woodleaf Chunin, who was fighting a Yunin ninja, saw an angry Thunder rushing towards him. "What is this? Are you trying to force me to face you head-on? He really doesn't have any morals." Shushi sighed. Just like an excellent matador, if the bull didn't look at him and rush towards the audience, it would be very troublesome. Luckily there's about enough time. Garashi thought to himself. The shadow clone that he had left in the forest earlier used Flying Thunder God to teleport to his side. After releasing the shadow clone technique, the immortal technique chakra instantly surged into his body. In the next moment, fresh and natural eye lines appeared on Garashi's face, and at the same time, the gate of potential in his body was opened. Then Garashi used the jutsu on AI's body as a coordinate and directly teleported behind him and punched him. This move again? Aware of the movement behind him, AI used Karate Chop with 30% of his strength. After all, the shadow left by Minato was still vivid in his mind. Of course he didn't dare to use all of his strength. Then he was sent flying like a rubber ball. He was already in a weakened state and he only used 70% of his strength. Naturally he was far from being an opponent of Garashi, who used Sage Mode in the first 3 gates. How is this possible? This bastard's strength is actually higher than mine. AI was shocked, recalling the scene in the Chunin exam. Is it the power called Senjutsu he used when he fought against Yuki? Garashi naturally didn't give him time to adjust his state. While AI was still flying in the air, he teleported above him with Flying Thunder God and stabbed down with kunai. However, this time Killer Bee was faster. He predicted AI's position in advance and pulled his big brother back with a tentacle. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, he saw Garashi teleporting over. Killer Bee subconsciously used lightning-style katana to slash at Garashi, but he was blown away by his opponent's heavy punch. But while he was flying, he didn't forget to use his tentacles to pull AI away. As an important factor in determining the direction of this war, even in the middle of the battle, many people were still paying attention to the battle in the central area. Therefore, seeing Garashi alone suppress the A and B combination, many Yunin ninjas felt a chill in their hearts. Why is this happening? Woodleaf didn't have the power to fight back last time. It's all because of the monster named Shimizu Garashi. He's too strong. Even the 2 of them aren't his opponents. The group of jonins in the conference room were also stunned. Even they felt that the A and B combination was extremely difficult to deal with, but they were suppressed by Garashi so miserably. Seeing this, they couldn't help but think, why do I feel that he's a jonin and we're the chunin? On the battlefield, Garashi pretended to be surprised. It's obviously a clone, but it still hasn't disappeared after suffering such a heavy injury. Killer Bee gasped for breath. This is no ordinary clone. It's my octopus foot clone. Garashi's eyes were serious. As expected of the Hachibi's Jinchuriki, even a clone is so difficult to deal with. It seems that to stop your actions I have to use a seal. With that, Garashi teleported again with Flying Thunder God. However, this time, there was a slight deviation in his positioning. Don't underestimate him. AI's thunderous punch landed squarely on Shushi's body with a thunderous roar. Garashi spat out a mouthful of blood, and this time, it was his turn to be sent flying. Fortunately, AI was now at the end of his rope, and Garashi was in sage mode, so his injuries were not too serious. He pressed his right hand on the ground and did a backflip to stabilize himself. Even so, Shushi was still surprised. I actually made a mistake in my positioning. Shushi took a closer look and saw that AI's left arm was dripping with blood. Even the bones were faintly visible. AI had torn off the part of his left arm that had the Flying Thunder God technique, skin and flesh. That's ruthless. Garashi sighed. This time he was indeed careless, forgetting that this was a ruthless person who dared to kill a Tensho with his physical body. Brother, are you okay? Killer Bee asked worriedly. I'm fine as long as my right arm is still there. I can cooperate with your Thunder God Hot Blade. AI's face was firm and he said while enduring the pain. Then let's do it one last time. Killer Bee reminded, continuously firing by Jidama, my body is reaching its limit. Chapter 142. Of course, they didn't directly use Thunder Slaughter Hot Blade. Against ordinary enemies, their combination technique could be so fast that the opponent couldn't react. However, Garashi was different. His speed and reaction were too fast. They had to create as many opportunities as possible. After looking at each other, AI used his remaining chakra to activate his body and attacked Garashi once again. My body can completely keep up with his movements. Garashi made a judgment and faced him head-on. His Sage Mode and 8 inner hidden gates also had a time limit. It was hard to say who would benefit if this dragged on. The speed of the two was extremely fast. In the eyes of the surrounding people, it was like two bolts of lightning were constantly colliding. Damn it, I'm actually suppressed in a head-on confrontation. AI felt sullen. If his left arm was intact or if his body was in a better state, it wouldn't be like this. Fortunately, he wasn't fighting alone. After Garashi's arms blocked AI's heavy punches, his right leg quickly kicked out like a sharp axe towards AI's waist. But at this moment, a short knife suddenly stabbed in. Clang. The strength of Killer Bee's clone naturally couldn't compare to the main body. As soon as they touched, the short knife was kicked out without any suspense. However, this also gave AI some time to breathe. He suddenly increased the strength of his right arm, and a powerful electric current spread towards Garashi. Even with Garashi's current body, he still felt a sense of numbness. Seeing that the sneak attack worked, AI raised his right arm and smashed down again. Garashi was unable to dodge and could only open his mouth to spit out acid. Immortal Art, Acid Spray. AI could sense the danger of the acid, but he still didn't dodge. Instead, his arm chopped down even faster. Obviously, he was planning to die together with Garashi. But at the last moment he was pushed out by an octopus leg. The acid fell on the ground and instantly corroded a deep gully. Although it looked terrifying, AI couldn't help but curse. Why did you stop me? Killer Bee was a little helpless. My stupid brother, do you really think that he can't move? AI turned his head and saw that Garashi had retreated to the side. He didn't look like he had just been paralyzed. Seeing this scene, AI could not help but curse in his heart. Bastard. You only know how to bully an honest person like me. But no matter what he thought, the battle continued. Garashi took the initiative to rush towards Killer Bee, who always got in the way at critical moments, and threw a simple punch. Monstrous strength plus immortal mode plus 8 inner hidden gates was indeed very simple. Killer Bee hurriedly crossed his swords in front of him. With a crisp sound, the swords broke and Killer Bee was sent flying like a cannonball. Bastard. You can beat me, but you can't beat me. AI's legs were infused with chakra, and he charged at Garashi furiously. Then I'll hit you. Garashi stopped chasing and turned around to throw a punch. Boom. A ripple spread out, and the compressed air radiated out like an air cannon. Some of the ninjas nearby couldn't avoid it and were directly blown away by the sudden gust of wind. Shushi was also forced to take 2 steps back, but A was sent flying and somersaulting twice. Damn it, if I was in my peak state, the loser would definitely not be me. AI was angry, but he also knew that if he was in his peak state, his opponent would not fight with him. But at this moment he realized that when Qingshui's Shushi turned around, another small tail had split out from his body. Years of tacit understanding made him quickly understand Killer Bee's plan. I must be prepared in advance, I can't waste Chibi's effort. AI attacked while accumulating his strength. Garashi didn't seem to notice the difference between the two. Seeing that AI was sent flying by him, he seized the opportunity and rushed towards Killer Bee again. Mountain mist. There weren't any fancy techniques, only terrifying strength. This incomparably powerful punch caused the surrounding air to emit an unbearable sound of sonic booms. Killer Bee's eyes were panicked. It seemed that he was frightened by the sudden blow and forgot to dodge, and then he was hit head-on. Boom. Killer Bee's eyes bulged and white foam appeared at the corner of his mouth. The vibrating air rippled out from behind him, stirring up a gust of wind. The intense pain made Killer Bee's consciousness a little blurred, but he still didn't forget his task. After his body returned to its original form, he firmly tied Garashi. At the same time, AI and a smaller Killer Bee were running at each other toward Shushi. Nyole Zai Hot Blade. Garashi subconsciously used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, but this time the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, which had always been successful, failed. Garashi was keenly aware that the octopus leg attached to his body was oozing black ink. This change reminded him that the Hachibi seemed to have a powerful sealing technique called the 100 Million Fury and Countless Troubles Flowing Slave. Although this sealing technique was most effective when he was in his complete form, from the looks of the current situation, the other party only needed to seal him for an instant to do so. As expected of the A and B combination of Yunin. At this moment, Garashi had the impulse to praise them. To be fair, this can definitely be regarded as the most difficult battle except for the battle with Asma when he first entered the ninja school. After all, at that time he had too few cards in his hand, and he needed to rely on psychological hints before the battle to barely defeat Asma. It's a pity that I can use too many methods now. Senjutsu, Kami, Soft Mud. Like the soft body of a slug, Garashi seemed to have turned into a mollusk, and his head fell back softly, making the A and B combination's Nyole Zai Hot Blade hit nothing, but the small Killer Bee was directly hit by AI who couldn't stop in time. Garashi twisted his body and in turn wrapped the tentacle Killer Bee tightly. Senjutsu, Demon Sealing Seal. Before the people on the field could react, the large octopus tentacle was sealed in the scroll prepared by Garashi in advance. Damn it, I still failed. A gritted his teeth and looked at Garashi, as if he wanted to imprint Garashi in his heart. Compared with the so-called failure of letting Namikaze Minato escape last time, this was a real failure, and he was defeated by a 10-year-old kid. Big brother, get ready to retreat, we have lost. Seeing A's painful face, the small Killer Bee hurriedly reminded him. Although he was very unwilling, A also knew that this war was over. Even if they still had a little upper hand in the frontal battlefield, as long as Namikaze Minato and Shimizu Garashi were released from their control, with those two bastards Flying Thunder God Jutsu, ordinary ninjas have no power to fight back. If they continue to persist, it will only increase the casualties. Thinking of this, A had to shout loudly, "Everyone retreat, B, use the Bijudama to cover us." Many Cloud ninjas also saw the scene of Abi and Kuroto being beaten up. Although they were depressed, they had no choice but to slowly retreat. But when they gradually retreated from the occupied area to the beginning of the battle, the Bijudama, which was originally moved to the distance by Minato, suddenly exploded in Yunin's area. Boom. A terrible energy storm swept around, large pieces of rock were lifted into the air, and the trees in the forest were directly broken, as if it was the end of the world. Chapter 143. The ground cracked and the sand and stones flew. In just a moment, the terrifying energy storm swallowed the lives of nearly 200 Yunin ninjas, and almost all the other Yunin ninjas were injured, screaming in pain on the scorched earth. Why is this happening? Why did Killer Bee-sama's Bijudama fall on our heads? Who will save me? I don't want to die. Although Woodleaf's ninjas were not affected by the energy storm, they were still blown away by the wind. After getting up, they stared blankly at the slaughterhouse in front of them. So terrible. Fortunately, Minato and Garashi are here, otherwise, we would be the unlucky ones. Seeing this scene, A's eyes almost shed tears of blood. No. He subconsciously wanted to rush to Minato, but Killer Bee forcibly held him back. Brother, do you want everyone to die here? But A's palms were bleeding. We can't escape now. Even if I don't use the Bijidama, I can still stop them. B, are you going to transform? No, with your current? There's no time to hesitate. Killer Bee roared, and his body continued to expand and eventually turned into a huge Bijidama. Woodleaf bastard, Woodleaf idiot, be careful not to be killed by me. Looking at the small octopus leg that suddenly appeared in his hand, A also understood and pretended to be in pain and shouted loudly, retreat quickly, don't waste the opportunity that B gave us. The remaining Cloud Shinobi were also affected by this tragic scene, and all of them gritted their teeth and dragged their weak bodies back to the village. You used your own body to stop us, you really are an excellent ninja. Minato's voice was sincere. If it was any other time, I would be happy to sit down and chat with a brave ninja like you. Killer Bee stared at him. Even if you say something nice, I won't let you go. Minato shook his head slightly and then issued an order. Everyone attack together. 10 minutes later, the grilled octopus was freshly baked. Tailed beasts are truly monsters. Even with so many of us attacking them together, it still took us such a long time. No, the tailed beast is far more terrible than this. If it weren't for the restriction of the Jinchuriki, we wouldn't be able to deal with it. Haha, but in the end we won this war. Now the only thing we have to do is to cheer and applaud the heroes. Minato Jounin. Garashi Chunin. After learning about the tragic situation of the previous war, most of them were prepared to die in battle. But who would have thought that this war would go so smoothly that they even defeated the enemy with an absolute advantage? And all of this was brought about by those two heroes. However, the two heroes quietly walked to a corner of the battlefield. Hachibi really values him. He didn't even go berserk. Garashi sighed softly as he looked at the grilled octopus in the distance. Garashi, you noticed it too? Minato was surprised. Garashi nodded slightly. Hachibi's clone technique is indeed very powerful, but after all, I sealed part of his chakra so I can still see it. But brother Minato, is it really okay to let him go like this? Minato sighed. Even the Hachibi is so difficult to kill. If he completely goes berserk regardless of the life and death of his Jinchuriki, at least half of us will die. With that, Minato shook his head and chuckled. However, he left most of his body behind this time. Even if it's Hachibi, it will take at least a year or two to recover. Garashi nodded in agreement. In the next year or two, we should be much more relaxed. Minato looked at Garashi with a smile. While the Hachibi's Jinchuriki is stagnant, Garashi, you are constantly improving. Even if they come back, they won't be able to keep up with our rhythm. On another border, Orochimaru and Jiraiya walked back while holding each other. This Raikiko's attack is still so powerful. Jiraiya gasped in pain. If Tsunade is here, we can try to keep him. Orochimaru's voice was calm, but his pale face became more and more frightening. Jiraiya shrugged helplessly, but this shrug made the wound that was about to heal open again. He grimaced in pain and forced himself to divert his attention. How do you think they are now? Orochimaru asked. You are the one who accompanied them in the special training. Shouldn't you know better than me? How can actual combat be compared with practice? Jiraiya was worried. What if the enemy used some despicable means? No, I'll go to the battlefield over there to take a look. Muttering all the way as soon as they returned to the camp, the two found that there were lanterns everywhere. Is someone getting married? Jiraiya asked in a daze. Idiot, they should have one. Orochimaru was surprised, and it's most likely a big victory. The ninja army behind the two was also a little restless. They came back after a hard battle. Why did it feel like Minato's team had it easier than them? Jiraiya couldn't help but grab a person and asked, is the battle over Minato's side over? The captured ninja was startled at first, but after recognizing Jiraiya's identity he shouted excitedly, Jiraiya-sama, Orochimaru-sama, we won. We killed at least 500 Yunin ninjas in this battle. One of the A and B team was seriously injured and the other one was killed by us. Jiraiya stared and asked in disbelief, what did you say? Even Orochimaru was in a trance for a while. Who died? It's the Hachibi's Jinchuriki. Jiraiya's mouth twitched. The Hachibi's Jinchuriki died? Actually, he wasn't too surprised that he was able to defeat his opponent. However, Killer Bee can transform into the Hachibi's complete body. How can such a monster be killed? Seeing that Jiraiya didn't seem to believe it, the ninja who reported became anxious. It's true. Garashi suppressed the A and B team by himself, and Minato even transferred the Baijidama to Yunin's camp. The Hachibi's Jinchuriki directly turned into a giant octopus in order to save people, and then he was killed by us. Hearing his true account, the ninja behind him became restless again. He suppressed the A and B team by himself. This kind of strength is simply unimaginable. Hyuga Hayashi in the crowd was shocked, and he couldn't help but think, maybe in the future I can let Hizashi or my children recognize Garashi as their teacher, and then our relationship will be closer. Minato Shimizu Garashi. Uchiha Hachiyo sighed in the crowd. Sure enough, Patriarch's vision is amazing. Chapter 144. Walking on the road, Garashi could clearly feel that everyone looked at him with more respect. From time to time, people would greet him enthusiastically, and there were even fanatical young genin rushing out to express their respect. Obviously, his strength has been recognized by everyone. After all, ninjas still speak with their strength. Whether it was saving people from dozens of miles away or using medical ninjutsu to save everyone's lives, the impact was far less than this time. They came to the temporary conference room. Jiraiya and the other two were already waiting here. Sorry I was delayed on the way. Garashi apologized. Haha, the treatment of a hero. Jiraiya had a I understand smile on his face. After sitting down, Orochimaru asked seriously, Minato-kun, what was the situation at that time? Garashi and Minato looked at each other and said the truth with a wry smile. After listening, Orochimaru sighed with some regret. It's a pity that we missed this opportunity. It won't be so easy to kill the Hachibi Jinchuriki again. Jiraiya didn't like to hear that. If the Hachibi goes berserk, most of them won't be able to come back. Orochimaru said indifferently, war is inevitably accompanied by sacrifice. As long as we can kill the perfect Jinchuriki, even if they all stay on the battlefield, it's worth it. You cold-blooded stinky snake, you're still as inhumane as before. Jiraiya had no doubt about it. After all, when they were carrying out the mission before, if it weren't for Tsunade's strong opposition, he might have been killed by Orochimaru. Orochimaru said indifferently, ninjas are just tools. Why do tools need humanity? Seeing that the two seemed to be about to quarrel again, Garashi quickly said, Orochimaru-sama, Jiraiya-sama, please take a look at this. Seeing the scroll in Garashi's hand, Jiraiya curiously asked, is this the scroll you used to seal the octopus leg? Garashi shook his head slightly. There's a technique in it. Minato was stunned for a moment before he asked in surprise, could it be that your idea has been completed? Garashi nodded emotionally. Yes, it took me 4 years to complete this sealing technique. It's never easy to develop a jutsu. The most direct comparison is that it took Minato 3 years to develop Rasengan in the original manga, but it only took Naruto 7 days to learn it. Needless to say, he didn't have much time to develop new techniques. What is it? While Jiraiya was still scratching his head in confusion, Garashi tore open the scroll, and a warm fluorescent light emanated from the scroll. This is the celestial palm technique? Jiraiya's eyes widened, but he quickly understood. You sealed the immortal palm technique in the scroll in advance? Orochimaru quickly realized the key. This technique must be used by a ninja who can use both sealing and medical ninjutsu, or can it be used separately? Also, how difficult is it to cultivate this technique? Obviously, if this technique can't be popularized or if it's too difficult to cultivate, its value will be greatly reduced. Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Orochimaru is indeed worthy of him. He quickly realized the key to the problem. At first, I developed this technique using myself as a template, but then I felt that maybe not everyone can master both sealing and medical ninjutsu at the same time like me. Jiraiya was secretly complaining on the side. What do you mean maybe not everyone can do it? There were not many people who could do it. But then he thought about it. For Garashi, who is proficient in sealing medical ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, and senjutsu at the same time, maybe being proficient in these two types of techniques is the basic operation? So, after I developed a special sealing technique for sealing medical ninjutsu, I then developed a combination sealing technique that can be used by 2 people together. As for the difficulty, it's probably at the level of a C-class ninjutsu. This doesn't mean that the time it takes for him to develop a C-class sealing technique is longer than the time it takes to develop an A-class Rasengan. Instead, he first developed an A-class sealing technique, and then simplified it into a C-class technique, the difficulty of which is almost no less than developing a brand new S-class ninjutsu. If it wasn't because he won the first place in the Chunin exam some time ago, and once again looked at the scroll of seals and got some inspiration from it, I'm afraid that he wouldn't be able to complete this technique until now. However, it's all worth it. If it can't be popularized, then the medical scroll is just a gimmick and it won't bring him much fame. It turned out to be a C-class sealing technique. Orochimaru looked deeply at Garashi. When this medical scroll is popularized, your reputation in everyone's heart may be higher than Sensei's. At least, in the eyes of those who survived because of this scroll, it must be so. Compared to the joy of Woodleaf, Yunin's side was gloomy. Can we really defeat that monster? I heard that those two are just civilian ninjas. You're lying, right? Ordinary people like us can actually defeat the noble Lord Ai and Lord Bai, who is a Jinchuriki. Compared to the heavy losses they suffered in the war, the failure of Team A and Team B, who were treated as heroes and models, was a bigger blow to their spirits. After all, Kumo is a fighting ninja village. Physical destruction is never a big deal, but the impact of a mental blow is too great. In a small house in the Cloud Thunder Gorge. It's all because I was reckless and radical. I was at a disadvantage from the beginning, which caused Bobby to become like this. Looking at the unconscious Bobby on the bed, AI said very vexedly. It's not wrong to use schemes, but it's a big mistake to use schemes without brains. I learned it from you, Dad. What did you say? Reikich's eyes widened. Dad, I'm wild on the outside and delicate on the inside, but you're wilder on the inside than on the outside. After a little bit of banter to blow away some of the heavy atmosphere, Reikich said with a dignified face, I paid enough attention to that Woodleaf kid, but I didn't expect that I still underestimated him. Because of Shimizu Garashi, the direction of this war has completely changed. AI clenched his fists and was furious. I must kill him and that Namikaze Minato to avenge Bai. Reikich coldly scolded, what do you have to kill them? Without Bai's cover you'll die if you fight them. Speaking of Bai, AI couldn't help but ask, Dad, when will Bai recover? Reikich looked at the bed, where Killer Bee's body had shrunk by half, and sighed in a low voice, it will take a year or two to recover. Damn it. AI punched the wall next to him and his elbow instantly went through the wall. Suddenly he remembered what he said after the Chunin exam. By the way, Dad, didn't you plan to assassinate that Shimizu Garashi? When will we start? He didn't say anything, but when he mentioned assassination, Reikich subconsciously slapped him. Without Bai's help, how can I assassinate him? AI finally reacted. If Shimizu Garashi was attacked, he would most likely inform Namikaze Minato. At that time, they would have to face two people who could use Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and the difficulty of assassination would be 10 times higher. Thinking of this, AI couldn't help but be annoyed. What should we do? Just leave him like this? Reikich said with a cold face, first we have to wait for Bai to recover, and then we have to wait for an opportunity. Opportunity? An opportunity for Kirin to join the war. Chapter 145. It's been 2 years since the Third Shinobi World War. During this period, countless ninjas sacrificed and fell, but there were also many who grew, rose, and wrote their own legends in the shinobi world. Among them, the most popular ones were naturally Woodleaf's twin stars, Golden Flash and Woodleaf's Light. Of course, the reason why Shimizu Shushi was given this title was not because he killed more enemies than Minato, but because Konoha's shinobi and allies survived because of him. The emergence of medical scrolls almost broke the balance of the battlefield, allowing many ninjas who couldn't get timely treatment to return to the battlefield after a period of rest. Not to mention the complete change in casualties, but more importantly, the psychological gap between the ninjas on both sides. Both sides were seriously injured, but one side could only take blood-increasing pills to survive, while the other side was equivalent to having medical ninjas to treat them. The gap was too big. For this reason, Kumogakure and Iwagakure used a lot of spies to target Konoha's medical and logistics forces. Unfortunately, Konoha's secrecy in this regard was too good. Even if it was just a C-class Fuinjutsu, Konoha placed a seal on everyone who learned it to ensure that it wouldn't leak out. Land of Kawa Tanjin Village. Outside the village, a group of Yunin ninjas looked at the enemy in front of them and couldn't help but retreat. There is a tattoo in the corner of his eyes. Is he Shimizu Garashi, the light of Woodleaf's light? Run. According to the village rules, we can directly abandon the mission if we meet him. No wonder the ninjas of the village disappeared in Tanjin. It turned out to be Woodleaf's plot. However, the opposite ninja frowned. Are you kidding me? With Garashi's strength, do you think he needs to use Sage Mode to deal with trash like you? Hearing his words, the group of Yunin ninjas were even more frightened. If it's not Shimizu Garashi, is it his subordinate, the Alabaster Devil Snake Mizuki? Damn. I actually met this madman. Sure enough, Mizuki's face gradually became cold. You think I'm Garashi? Are you humiliating him? The group of Yunin ninjas couldn't keep up with his brain circuit. Shouldn't he be happy to be regarded as his idol? I'm not happy, so you all go to hell. Ah! Screams of panic and despair echoed in the forest, and the surrounding birds were frightened and fled. Soon, Mizuki, who had restored his original appearance, returned to Tang Village. This was quite a rich village even during the war because it gave enough benefits. Woodleaf and Yunin tacitly avoided it. After all, it was such a high-quality land, its land was destroyed. However, Tenjin, this village was too warm. Mizuki wore. As soon as he entered the village, for village's uncle's village young man, want to life. Day holy churches store you, S is you, S blind you, S miss. Do you want to consider it? Handsome young man is also fine. Mizuki War's mouth twitched. Since he practiced the senjutsu of the Ryuchi cave, his aura became more and more gloomy and cold. Even many people in the village didn't dare to approach him, but these uncles and aunties were not afraid at all. In desperation, he had to take out a pendant and hang it around his neck. There was a ring on the outside and a triangle pattern in the middle. Seeing this, the originally enthusiastic uncles and aunties scattered in an instant. Oh, he has already joined the church. Boring. Let's go cheat, ahem, let's find the next lucky tourist. Mizuki War shook his head. The style of this village was really out of place during the war. Returning to the church where he stayed before, more than a dozen ninjas greeted him warmly. Most of them were ninjas of the same period as Mizuki War, and now they were assigned to the special operations team led by Garashi. But for Mizuki War, he was only familiar with a few people, such as Asuma, Kurenai, Ibixi, and Metke. Mizuki War is back. How is it, did you get the information? Mizuki War just nodded indifferently, and the ninjas around him have long been accustomed to his reaction, so naturally they didn't show anything strange. The disappearance of our ninjas in Tangin shouldn't be caused by Yunin, and like us, they also have ninjas missing here. Hearing Mizuki War's information, everyone's expression became serious. Yunin also has ninjas missing. It seems that this is not an accident. Is it Tangin's ninjas? Impossible. A small Tangin village dares to plot against Yunin and Woodleaf at the same time? Let's listen to what Garashi Jonin has to say. Speaking of this, everyone couldn't help but cast a look of admiration at the young ninja. Because of his outstanding military service, Garashi was promoted to Jonin as early as half a year ago, directly breaking the record of the major ninja villages. In this regard, no one raised an objection. Whether it is military service or reputation, he has reached a peak. About, knock knock. Just as Garashi was about to speak, there was a sudden knock on the door. Please come in. A kind-looking old man came in with bowls and plates and put them in front of everyone. Ninja-sama, if you are hungry, you can taste the special food of our Tangin village, especially this clear soup, which is as famous as the hot spring of our Tangin village. Sorry to trouble you. No, you have worked hard. After saying that, he very consciously retreated. Everyone looked at each other, then lowered their voices and discussed. Is there a problem with these food? Do you suspect that he poisoned it? This old man is kind, he doesn't look like a good person at first glance. Well, I think Naruto-sama may have something to say, the Inuzuka clan ninja sniffed. There should be no poison, but there seems to be a strange smell. This time it didn't develop according to the normal process. It seems that we have wronged him. Garashi shook his head slightly. No poison doesn't mean that it is safe. Some secret techniques only need some specific media to activate. Hearing Garashi say this, everyone was instantly alert. Garashi, what did you find? Garashi picked up the clear soup and said, it's the smell of blood, to be precise, it's the smell of human blood. This clear soup was so clear that the bottom could be seen. Not even a trace of blood could be seen. If it weren't for his strong perception, he might not have found it strange. What? Human blood? Everyone's face changed quickly. If it was the blood of poultry, it would be fine, but mixed with human blood, it's probably not a good thing. Garashi, what should we do next? Do you want to investigate separately? Garashi said calmly, We didn't come here for a vacation and we don't have time to investigate slowly. Since we have found clues, let's directly investigate. Chapter 146. At the same time, in the basement of the largest church in Tangin village. In the middle of the basement, there was a huge blood pool that was constantly bubbling, but strangely, there was no stench of blood around. Instead, there was a fresh and natural smell. In front of the blood pool, a kind-looking old man stood quietly, looking at the blood pool with fanatical eyes. Behind him, there were dozens of Tangin ninjas with the same fanatical eyes. The old man chanted loudly, "Soon the perfect vessel of Shingsama will be born soon, so we need more sacrifices." The crowd also shouted with fanaticism, "Sacrifice! Sacrifice!" But at this time a discordant voice came from the crowd. "Bishop, there are already ninjas from Woodleaf and Yunnan coming to investigate. Should we slow down a little and wait for them to leave before continuing the sacrifice?" The bishop frowned. "Is a mere Woodleaf from Yunnan worthy of delaying the arrival of Shingsama? A mere Woodleaf from Yunnan?" The ninja who spoke couldn't help but stare blankly. Has the bishop been out of touch with the outside world for too long? Thinking of this, Kuroto couldn't help but remind Kuroto. "I heard that among the people sent by Konoha to investigate this time, there is Shimizu Shushi who shone brilliantly in the war. He's the top combat power that can change the course of a war by himself, and he's even called the Great Demon King by many cloud ninjas." However, the bishop wasn't surprised. "Great. Last time, Konoha's shinobi was worth 10 offerings. If Shimizu Azushi is really that powerful, then maybe he alone can make up for 100 offerings. At that time, the day of Shingsama's awakening will come as soon as possible." At this time there was a sudden sound of footsteps. The group of ninjas in front of the blood pool hurriedly turned to look at the entrance. A group of ninjas wearing woodleaf headbands appeared in their sight. The bishop's face changed slightly. "How did you find this place?" Kurenai snapped her fingers. "After determining the target, I used genjutsu to ask." Asma shrugged helplessly. "You took the initiative to send all the information to us. Are you stupid?" Mizuki's killing intent was biting cold. "Idiot." The bishop's face was red with anger. This was the first time he was behind the scenes. How could he not have experience? "Impudent people, Shingsama will punish you." Garashi asked coldly. "Where are our Woodleaf ninjas?" "Woodleaf ninjas? They have become part of Shingsama." The bishop's eyes were fierce. "Don't worry, you will meet them soon. Believers, let's show them your power, let them repent under the glory of Shingsama." Except for a small number of ninjas who joined recently and were still hesitating, the rest of the ninjas rushed toward Shueisha and the others like crazy. Although these people looked fierce, in fact most of them weren't even ninjas. Moreover, the ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages have always fought with the ninjas of the small ninja villages, so naturally Shushi and the others were very calm. "Garashi, leave these guys to us. You just rest on the side." Garashi reminded, "This religion is likely to be related to blood. Pay attention not to bleed and don't get stained with their blood." Understood. After starting the operation, Mizuki rushed directly toward the bishop. The other party said that he wanted to kill Garashi, so he can't just ignore it. Mizuki is too cunning. "Forget it, let's go find others." There are still a lot of people eyeing the bishop, but they don't intend to compete with Mizuki. Seeing Mizuki rushing toward him, the bishop calmly said, "Impudent people, I will let you see Shingsama's." Before his voice fell, his heart was pierced by a kunai, and then he fell down in disbelief. "That's it? Sure enough, he's an idiot." Mizuki disdainfully turned and walked toward the others. But at this moment, a subtle sound suddenly came from behind him. Without much time to think, Mizuki subconsciously dodged to the side. The next moment, a short knife came down from where he was originally. That was close. Mizuki turned around and looked at the same time, and then his eyes suddenly widened. He saw the bishop who should have died came back to life again, and he grabbed the short knife with a grin. How is it possible? Is it a substitution technique? But Mizuki quickly denied this guess. No, his heart was indeed pierced by me. At this time, there were slightly panicked voices from other directions. Why can't these people be killed? Are they all immortal monsters? Use Katan, burn these monsters. Not long after, painful screams sounded one after another in the basement, and soon there were piles of ashes on the ground. I was scared to death. I thought they were really unkillable monsters. Just when everyone was slightly relaxed, Mizuki's solemn voice came from another direction. No, Katan can't kill him. Everyone turned around and saw Mizuki being chased by a monster covered in flames. Gah! Don't compare me with those defective products. My body is the masterpiece of Lord Xing deity. Although he said so, he could not help but let out painful screams when he was burned by the flames. Obviously, his ability did not make him immune to pain. It's really the ability of a flying Dan, but it seems to be slightly inferior to a flying Dan. Garashi watched quietly from afar. He could feel that the bishop's aura had weakened after his heart was pierced. If this process was repeated hundreds of times, it should be able to kill him. Speaking of which, this ability seems to be somewhat similar to Edo Tensei. Physical attacks and ordinary energy attacks are not effective. If that's the case, how about a soul attack? Garashi quickly formed a seal with his hands. Spiritualization Jutsu, capture. The bishop who was chasing Mizuki felt something pass through his body, and in the next moment he knelt on the ground with his head in his hands and screamed at the top of his lungs. What ability is this? Why is my body collapsing? It's impossible. No one can really hurt me. Everyone subconsciously looked at Garashi and saw a white light returning to his body. So it's Captain. As expected of Jonin Garashi, he can even kill such an undying monster. Hearing the praise of these ninjas, the bishop roared unwillingly, "Damn it, my body is not perfect. If it was the real perfect body, it would definitely be impossible for you ninjas to kill me. Just wait, you sinners will definitely be punished by Lord Diablo." Garashi naturally did not care about the other party's curse, but secretly thought in his heart, sure enough, it's the effect of the soul, using the power of the soul to reflect reality. In the original manga, Orochimaru's hands were taken away by the Grim Reaper, causing him to be unable to use his hands, and when Minato's soul ascended to heaven he had no hands. It's very likely that the truth-seeking Jade destroyed the souls in his hands, causing the Edo Tensei to also lose his hands. Thinking of this, Garashi's calm heart was stirred. If the soul is strong enough, maybe a normal human body can also do this. At this moment, Asuma's voice came from the blood pool, "Come and see, there is still a child alive here." Chapter 147. Garashi put away his thoughts for the time being and walked towards Asuma. There were 12 round platforms evenly distributed around the blood pool. Similar to the pendants of the holy god cult, there was also a triangular pattern in the middle. On the triangular pattern there were some 2 to 3 years old children. However, judging from the situation at the scene, it seemed that only the child in front of Asuma was still alive. Damn it, this bullshit holy god cult is actually experimenting on children. It should be the Cthulhuism cult. Didn't you hear the curse of the bishop before he died? Who cares what cult it is, such an evil cult shouldn't exist. Garashi, can this little guy still be saved? Garashi walked forward and a strong sense of déjà vu hit him. This guy was obviously a Smurf Fei Duan. Thinking of this, Garashi couldn't help but look at Asuma. "Garashi, why are you looking at me?" Asuma asked in confusion. "Nothing." Garashi shook his head calmly, and placed his right hand on Fei Duan's stomach. A warm fluorescent light bloomed, and the next moment Fei Duan slowly opened his eyes. "You are this god's servants?" Everyone was speechless, their mouths twitched. Was this kid's brain fried? Servants, humbly crawling on the ground. Asuma directly flicked his head. "Kid, are you awake?" Fei Duan's cold attitude instantly collapsed and he said in a frenzy, "Despicable bastard, do you know who I am? Master Fei Duan is the Cthulhuisms." What? Asuma thought he was too noisy, and subconsciously flicked Fei Duan's birdie. Seeing that everyone was looking at him as if he was a pervert, Asuma couldn't help but laugh. "Haha, it was just a coincidence." Fei Duan's face was full of shame and anger. "Kill you, I must kill you. I will use the most severe punishment of the Cthulhuism cult, and kill you with a knife." Shui Mu said coldly, "This kid seems to have been deeply poisoned by the Cthulhuism cult. Leaving him alive is a disaster. Why not kill him now?" Fei Duan curled his lips. "Come and kill me if you can." Asuma frowned. "There's no need, he's just a kid after all." Shui Mu didn't care about his opinion, and only looked at Garashi. "Fei Duan, this kid is a good research subject." Garashi said with a smile, "Bring him back and let Lord Naruto use the will of fire will reform him." Fei Duan, the will of Cthulhuism cult Cthulhuism, the will of Cthulhuism Fei Duan Cthulhuism, the will of hell of Cthulhu, Will Cthulhuism Faye? Asma sighed bitterly. There was indeed only one book before, but after realizing the role of the will of fire in Garashi's growth, the old man was inspired, and in the past 2 years he has written a few more great works, and now the Will of Fire series has expanded to 10 books. Hearing this, the surrounding people subconsciously shuddered. Then they looked at Fei Duan, who was still clamoring, with sympathetic gazes. Poor kid, he probably didn't know what kind of hell was waiting for him in front of him. After returning to the main camp and reporting the mission, Orochimaru licked the corner of his mouth. Immortal body? This is really an enviable ability. Seeing this, Garashi couldn't help but mourn for Fei Duan's future. Not only was he targeted by him, but now Orochimaru was targeting him as well. Jiraiya's face was solemn. Fortunately, this Cthulhuism cult was eradicated by you in advance. If Raikage obtained this immortal body, we would be in danger. Minato muttered, Cthulhuism, does this kind of thing really exist? Speaking of which, Shinakushina's clan also has a technique to summon the Grim Reaper, called the Corpse Ghost Seal. Jiraiya laughed, haha, I used to hear such a saying when I was in Mount Mayaboku. They said that the so-called kami is just a figment of people's imagination. When more people know and recognize it, this illusory power will become reality. However, because people's thoughts were mixed with too many emotions, most of these gods were evil. In order to protect the stability and peace of the world, the immortals stood up and fought with these evil gods. In the end, these gods were suppressed and sealed. Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh. It sounds more interesting than your third-rate novels. Jiraiya's face darkened. What do you mean by third-rate novels? My novels are at least second-rate. Orochimaru smiled helplessly. Well, second-rate novels. Seeing that the topic was getting further and further away, Minato hurriedly said, Orochimaru-sama, sensei, here is the information from a spy. Kirin has begun to move. Speaking of business, Orochimaru also became serious. Seeing that we and Yunin have been fighting for so long, Kirin finally can't help but want to join the battle? Jiraiya said in a deep voice, it's not necessarily against us. The second Mizukage and the second Tsuchikage died together in the last war. The hatred between Kirin and Rock Crypsis is not small. Speaking of hatred, which village doesn't have hatred between them? Only interests are the eternal topic. Orochimaru's eyes were calm. In any case, we should be prepared to fight against Kirin. Jiraiya nodded, indeed they should be prepared. Minato, Garashi, you two will work hard for this period of time. If there is a battle in the front line, try to rush to support as soon as possible. Yes. At night. Garashi sorted out some of the information he got from the Cthulhuism Society. Although he didn't intend to do that kind of disgusting human experiment, it was not a problem to use it as a reference. Using blood to wash the whole body or even replace all the blood in the body, in order to cut the connection between the body and the soul, and then using a secret technique to solidify the soul, achieve the effect of transcending life and death. Seeing this, Garashi slightly shook his head. It sounds very good, but in fact it's already a half-dead body. Such an undying body is not attractive to me. But this so-called secret technique is a bit interesting, turning oneself into the vessel of the Cthulhu, in essence visualizing oneself as the Cthulhu, and then fanatically believing in oneself, and even absorbing those thoughts to strengthen one's soul step by step. Although this kind of setting is similar to the totem god in the fantasy novels of his previous life, it is not impossible in this world. After all, even the Otsutsuki Kagaya gave birth to the Rikudo brothers because of everyone's blessing. It can be seen that this kind of illusory idea can be transformed into real power. And Jiraiya's words also made him speculate, perhaps the so-called sage, gods and demons are the native forces of this world. But these forces were defeated by the Otsutsuki from the universe. But to say that these forces are useless in Garashi's view, it is debatable. Goddess Uno, Rikudo Sannin, their strength is far more powerful than the Otsutsuki family. Maybe they have absorbed the native forces of this world. In Garashi's view, even the Sharingan and Mokutan can restrain the Bijou, indicating that the Otsutsuki family should have a very mature technology to control the Jubi. Just becoming the Jubi's Jinchuriki should not be so much stronger than the Otsutsuki family. In particular, the great change in Kagaya's temperament mentioned in the original work seems to be inexplicably similar to the contamination of gods mentioned by Jiraiya. Even the statement that Otsutsuki Kagaya was blessed by the world to give birth to children also proves this point. She is indeed absorbing everyone's faith. Or is it because of the uniqueness of this world that the fruit of the chakra tree is far more powerful than other chakra fruits? But because the fruit of the chakra tree contains the power of other systems, Kagaya is contaminated and eroded? Looking at the information in front of him, Shushi's expression changed. However, if this conjecture is correct, it also proves that this system is dangerous. Even Kagaya Otsutsuki was unavoidably infected. I'm still too far away from that. Whether this conjecture is true or false, it is better not to get involved with the power of gods for the time being, wait for my clone to be completed, and then try it with my clone. Chapter 148. The moonlight was quiet, and the shadows of the trees were mottled. After patrolling outside for a day, everyone enjoyed a rare moment of peace. But at this moment, the barrier class's alarm suddenly sounded. Enemy attack. Alert. Direction of the hospital. Garashi, who was thinking about what to do in the small tent, immediately stood up and teleported to the temporary hospital with the Flying Thunder God technique. There was some chaos in the hospital, and outside there was a fierce fighting sound. Seeing Garashi's arrival, the doctors and nurses quickly gathered together as if they had found their backbone. Garashi, thank goodness you're here. Phew. With Garashi-sama here, we don't have to worry. And the enemy outside obviously noticed his arrival. It's Shimizu Garashi. Damn it, this mission has failed. Retreat, don't fight. Garashi did not chase after them. His priority was to protect the doctors and patients. As for chasing after the enemy, naturally the other jonins would deal with it. Seeing this, everyone in the hospital was relieved. So, how many times has it been these Yunin ninjas still haven't given up? I don't know what they're thinking, sneaking into the camp and being discovered, they're dead meat. Garashi comforted them. Everyone, go back to your positions, the chaos should be over soon. However, 2 minutes passed. Not only did the noise outside not disappear, but it seemed to be getting more and more intense. Garashi frowned slightly, something was wrong. Why was the chaos in the camp not stopping? Could it be that the enemy who sneaked in this time? Thinking of a certain possibility, Garashi could not help but feel a little haze in his heart. At this moment, Inuzuka jaw ran anxiously. Garashi, come with me. Garashi shook his head slightly. Although I'm not sure what's the situation now, but I can't rule out the possibility that you were deceived and helped Yunin to lure me away. Inuzuka jaw was startled, this seemed to have happened before. But he quickly shook his head and said quickly, it's Jiraiya-sama who is seriously injured, he's dying. What? Where is he now? Garashi was startled and hurriedly asked. At Outpost 7. Inuzuka jaw quickly replied. Garashi put his right hand on Inuzuka jaw's shoulder, hesitated for a moment, and made a hand seal to create a shadow clone, and then used the Flying Thunder God technique with Inuzuka jaw. Everyone in the temporary hospital heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this scene. They couldn't help but feel touched. Garashi was really too reliable. Outpost number 7 was in chaos. Minato and Orochimaru besieged Reikage, and the other jonins couldn't intervene. They could only harass him at the edge of the battle circle. In the distance, Jiraiya was leaning against a tree. There was a terrifying hole in his chest. Several ninjas with basic medical ninjutsu were performing emergency treatment on the side, while frantically tearing up medical scrolls. On the battlefield, Minato, who used to be gentle and modest, at this moment was like a volcano that was suppressing its anger, attacking the enemy in front of him with the fiercest offensive. Orochimaru, who had a feminine temperament, had a cold look in his eyes. He didn't say a word, but all his ninjutsu were extremely vicious. However, in the face of the joint attack of the two, Reikage didn't have the slightest fear. Ah! Are you two trying to kill this old man with your eyes? This level of attack is only enough to scratch this old man's itch. He is indeed qualified to say such words. Although Minato is very mobile, the lethality of his ninjutsu is still too low. It's okay for ordinary ninjas, but for him who has the strongest defense in the world, it's not enough. At least in his view, the joint attack of Minato and Orochimaru is far less of a threat to him than the joint attack of Jiraiya and Orochimaru. The other ninjas who were attacking in the distance couldn't help but curse. The dignified Reikage actually disguised himself as a spy, it's too shameless. Who would have thought that the real purpose of this wave of spies wasn't the medical scroll? Reikage coldly snorted, as long as we can win this war, this old man's face will be thrown to the ground for you to step on. Speaking of which, this old man has sent so many ninjas to you, now it's time for Yunin to reap the harvest. Hearing this, Orochimaru and Minato's hearts were extremely bitter. They were indeed blinded by the good trend of the past 2 years, so they didn't realize the purpose of Yunin. Or they underestimated Rakich's decisiveness, sending so many excellent ninjas to their death just to reduce their vigilance, and finally he disguised himself as a spy and gave a fatal blow when they were being chased. At this time there was a fluctuation in space. Garashi appeared in front of everyone's eyes holding Inuzuka's jaw. Woodleaf's side was naturally ecstatic. Garashi's medical ninjutsu is of course many times stronger than theirs. Although Rakich was a little worried, he didn't care too much. No one knew the power of the 4 weapons better than him. It's a powerful move that even the Hachibi was afraid of. Jiraiya is dead, even the 6-path sage can't stop him. Garashi quickly ran to Jiraiya's side, and the people around consciously made way. It's really serious. Garashi frowned. Jiraiya's chest was directly hollowed out, and there were arcs of electricity jumping around, which affected the body's recovery. Thunder Seal. With a dignified expression, Shueisha sucked away the lightning wrapped around Jiraiya's chest and sealed it. Don't force yourself, I know my own body best, this kind of injury is incurable. Jiraiya said self-deprecatingly, it's really embarrassing. I thought of many ways to end this, but I didn't expect that I would be killed because of carelessness. Fortunately the other party is ahem. Rakic, it's not too embarrassing. Please help me apologize to Sensei, he used the telescope technique to peep, ahem. I'm the one who spread the news. There's also Orochimaru, I used to use his face to get caught when I was a wanton and unrestrained person. By the way, ahem, tell Tsunade. If you have something to say, tell Sensei yourself, and if you continue to be long-winded, you'll really die. Garashi said seriously. Jiraiya blinked, I can still be saved? Garashi said confidently, of course, it's not that I haven't made any progress in the past 2 years. With that said, Garashi unlocked the Yin seal and chakra poured out of his body. Then, Garashi covered Jiraiya's chest with his hands. In the next moment, an incomparably powerful Yang-style chakra stimulated Jiraiya's cells to rapidly divide. Ninjutsu, creation rebirth, change. To be precise, it's the other version of creation rebirth. In fact, Tsunade was supposed to develop creation rebirth more than 10 years later, but under his inadvertent reminder, Tsunade advanced this process more than 10 years ahead of time. After all, she was decadent for more than 10 years in the original track, and her condition even declined a lot. In comparison, she's actually not weaker than she was in that time and space. Therefore, after Garashi's reminder, it's not surprising that Tsunade developed this ninjutsu more than 10 years ahead of time. And Garashi's work was to slightly improve this result, and he came up with this version of creation rebirth. The organs that were destroyed are reborn. After perceiving the changes in his body, Jiraiya was shocked. Garashi's medical ninjutsu has reached this level? But in the next moment he recovered from the ecstasy and his face was pale. Wait, I seem to have said a lot of things just now. Is it too late to pretend to be dead? You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.